Hello, friends, and welcome. My name is Popeye, and today we're playing some more Higurashi Chapter 6, Tsumihoroboshi, or the Atonement Chapter. Before we get started, this game has some pretty serious themes. In fact, after last stream on Wednesday, I've actually had to add a couple more. So if any of these things make you feel uncomfortable or just aren't for you, please, by all means, find some place that will make you feel a little more comfortable tonight. This game deals with themes such as torture, rape, murder, kidnapping, blood, gore, language, self-harm, and body horror. Those were the two new ones from last stream, and any of those things against a minor, which is a person under the age of 18 years old. Most of the people here are not even out of elementary school. And the oldest character is like 14, 15, something like that. The youngest character being 10, I think. Main characters, at least. So once again, if any of that's not for you, please, by all means, find some place that's more your speed today. If you missed any of that, look down below in the details in the About page, where it has a list of all those, including the two new ones, which were self-harm and body horror. And hello, Avier. When did I say I was your mom? But yes, so what did we do last time? Also, I apologize that there is audio to this game. I just don't know why there's not Avier, not Avier. I don't know why there's not audio, that's the word, here. It's just, I don't know, there's just no audio for this portion of the game. That's my brain reading things on this side and then saying them out loud. So what did we do last time? So we started off with we were in the garbage dump. We had just finished Rena talking about all the things she'd done, committing multiple murders and trying to hide the bodies. Keiichi starts by saying, why didn't you tell us? We could have helped. I thought we were your friends. And she goes on telling each of them, how they failed her and how she couldn't trust them in the past, except for Keiichi because he wasn't there last year when this happened. And all of them are like, yeah, you know what? You're right. We screwed up last year. And Keiichi's like, see, your friends are learning. They're becoming more responsible. They understand. You could have told us this time because they're not children. They're learning from their mistakes. And then we decide to help her bury the bodies in the mountains. Then what did we do? Then we pretended none of that ever happened. Went back to trying to have a fun time, but Rena starts getting sick. They think it's more of a psychological sickness rather than a physical sickness because it goes on for what seems like almost a week at times. We have the Watsunagashi festival, which is when someone dies and someone goes missing. And it's our two usual suspects of Tomitake, Jiro, and the nurse. And Rena gets questioned by the police. And what she finds out is that Jiro has ripped his throat out, which she thinks is strange because it's eerily similar to something that happened to her. And then she reflects on when she was meeting the nurse in the library, I think it was like 3 days prior to this, how the nurse was going over her interest in the Oyashiro-sama curse and the yearly killings. Die fly, there we go. Oh, I didn't get... Aha. Now you were dead. Perfect. And this, talking about this triggers a response, a PTSD response in Rena, which we've seen kind of glimpses of it, but it's been a memory that she's kind of locked up because of the trauma that it induces. And this would be after her mother divorced her father while they were still living outside of Hinamizawa in Ibaraki, I think is the city. She started getting this feeling that there were things just like crawling inside of her veins, and would just start scratching out. So she would scratch at her neck to the point where it was bleeding, and she would see maggots coming out with her blood. And then they would crawl back inside her. And of course, that's horrifying. And she didn't want maggots inside of her. So she starts cutting herself to let the blood and the maggots out as best as she can. Of course, she's immediately brought into a hospital where she is treated by doctors who think she's crazy. They say she has schizophrenia, PTSD, which all might very well be true, and a bunch of other stuff. And they start giving her what essentially seems to be like a memory suppressant drug. It helps her forget this memory. And when she's feeling better, they release her from the hospital with some drugs to continue taking. But there's one night she's run out of the meds. It's too late to go get her a refill on her prescription. So she's really feeling the effects, the withdrawal of it. And she feels the maggots inside her again. And so she wants to verify, was I crazy? Are there maggots inside me? So she cuts open her wrist into the sink, and sure enough, there's maggots. So she starts draining it out of her wrist when she sees a bright light, and Oyashiro-sama appears to her and says, this is a curse because you left Hinamizawa. I can grant you my power for a little bit, but only a little bit because you're so far from home. So come home in that time. During that time, you won't feel the maggots, but when my power stops, and if you're not back, the maggots will return. And sure enough, all the maggots stop. So she convinces her father to take her home, which was actually already something we saw in one of the tips that the doctors were advising anyways, just to go home, that it would help her mental state. And, something, being in the country with fresh air, something that, doctors often advise anyways, being away from the city. So it triggers this response in her. So we learn all of this. And then the nurse gives her a bunch of scrapbooks that she's been collecting on, and just notebooks on the killings and on Oyashiro-sama in general. And now that the nurse is gone missing, presumed dead, Rena's like, what if they killed her because of what's in these journals? And she's starting to go through them. And the biggest things that we get out of it is, one, there's a theory that people from Hinamizawa have what they call extreme homesickness. The idea that you have such like a deep longing to go home that if you leave for a long period of time, you get sick. And their theory is that the rumor that the city used to be, or not the city, the village used to have demons in it was actually like a viral infection, and that the virus is trying to lure everyone back home because it's their ideal environment, and it makes them feel sick if they don't. And then the other thing, she looks up and she's like, okay, like I guess that kind of explains it. It's better than, a god curse. But what about the maggots? And then she sees in that there is actually a bit about maggots, that it was listed as one of the curses by the local priest of people who left Hinamizawa. And, it's kind of up in the air. Is that actually a curse? Is it part of this this like disease, not disease, bacterial infection, parasite that forces you to see things and encourages you to come back home? Hello, Candy. How is it going? How is it at, what is it, like 3 a.m. for you, 2 a.m.? So that's about where we finished up. She was reading all this and then gets a knock at the door and decides to hide everything. 1 a.m. I knew it was late. Oh yeah, 6 hours. I just did math wrong. So that's basically what happened. So got a knock at the door. She's hidden the scrapbooks, and now we're going to see who's at the door.
Rena, 電話が来てるぞ。
Of course, if we'd advanced exactly one piece of text, you would have had audio this whole time. But of course not.
電話
Yes, Deadbeard and I were talking about this the other day, that in... This is February. It's when I think it's sometime mid-March that changes it up again for us. And what's also weird to me is I know this from being with Mim, that daylight savings times don't match up around the world. So there was often like a couple weeks where Mim being in the UK, I think theirs happened sooner. So there was like a time period where we were like off by an extra hour and stuff like that. It's get your times together, people.
こんな時間に誰だろう
Exactly 1 month?
本屋さんからだぞ。
I mean, I can probably see it in my Google Calendar. When is it for us? It's also weird, like Canada by itself, it depends like province to province whether or not they have daylight savings time or not. And some of it's even like city by city, that some cities will have it and some cities won't. Or like some cities are like, oh, we're going to follow this other province because we're closer to them than to the rest of our province. And for us, it is Sunday, March 13th. That is when ours is. So yeah, almost exactly a month. Yeah, Canada's said this, but then the most recent one was they said it last year, and then they were like, we'll do it, but only if the United States does it. And then the US is like, we don't care, whatever. And I remember at the time there's a debate about, okay, let's say we abolish daylight savings time. Which time do we stay at? Do we stay at the summertime or do we stay at the winter time? And that's a whole debate by itself. The main ones are if you're open later, which is the one I prefer actually, which is, I think that's the summertime. You get more sunlight in the evening, less sunlight in the day, in the morning. So it's like better for business because people are more willing to go out because there's light, after work. But experts here were saying that they would want to do the other one where the light starts earlier and ends earlier because that's closer to your body's natural clock. And during that time period, there's actually fewer accidents and fewer heart conditions and stuff like that, fewer strokes, fewer heart attacks, because it's closer to your body's natural rhythm and less taxing on it. So that was kind of the debate, was money versus health. Money's probably going to win. But yeah, I haven't really heard that debate come up in quite a few years.
本の取り寄せとか頼んだのか？沖宮書房の大石さんって人からだ。
Oh, what the heck? I opened the windows, but all they let in was the heat and the cries of the cicadas. So from that phone call, we can see that Oishi was playing probably almost all of them. He was calling all of them at night, trying to get information out of them, trying to intimidate them, or just unnerve them into releasing some information. It was break time between classes, but we couldn't really get any rest. Mion and I leaned on our desks, exhausted by the heat. The younger kids sure are tough considering how the heat wasn't bothering them at all. They're all running around the classroom despite the temperature. Okay, sounds good.
そんなことねえぞ。 あるのはせいぜい職員室ぐらいだな。
うわぁ、それは羨ましいね。生徒みんなで職員室を襲って占拠とかしないの？
その辺の発想が実に妙音臭い。ああ、
I didn't even have the energy to laugh. Mia and I stopped talking and used our notebooks to fan ourselves. I looked at the empty seat nearby. It was Rena's. Rena didn't come to school today. She called and told Chie Sensei that she couldn't come because she's sick.
レナのやつ、最近元気ないよな。
だね。暑さにやられたのかもね。
なあ、本気で暑さでやられたと思ってるのか？
そう思ってるけど。
例の一件がさ。
かもね。それに暑さも加わって夏バテでも起こしたんじゃないかな。
I can't even imagine how distressing it was for her to commit a murder, dismember the bodies, and get caught by our friends. We took each other's hands at that place and we united. All of us believed we'd closed the case there and had regained our peace. But was that as easy for Ren as it was for us? We must not have quite recovered yet.
おじさんはみんなで楽しく遊んでればそのうち元気になると思ってたんだけどね。そこまで心の傷が浅くなかったってことかな。
こういう時さ、どうしたらレナを元気づけられるかな？
多分ほっとくのが一番じゃないかな。
おいおい、そんなのでいいのかよ。俺たち仲間だろ？
ほら、ホームシックってあるじゃない？あれもね、ちょっと寂しいからって言って実家に電話なんかかけちゃうと一気に発症しちゃうらしいよ。寂しい時はぐっと耐えて、例えばスポーツにでも打ち込んで気分転換を図るのが一番なんだってさ。
気分転換させてやりたくても、あいつ最近部活に加わらないし。
レナはどうか知らないけどさ、人には甘えたい欲ってのがあるんだよ。そばに支えてくれる人や同情してくれる人がいると甘えたくなる欲、慰めてくれる人が現れるとさ、際限なく甘えちゃうことってない？
どうだろうな。
際限なく甘えるってことは相手の同情をより深く得ようとするってこと。そうするとケイちゃんは慰めてるつもりなのに相手はどんどん落ち込んでいっちゃうことがあるんだよね。慰められて甘えられる、これに味を占めると不幸に酔うのが癖になる。レナもその辺分かってるからわざと一人になろうとしてるんじゃない？慰めや甘えが目的だったら私たちのそばにいて涙を流せば済むわけだし。
じゃあ落ち込んでるレナをどう励ませばいいんだよ。
女の心情としては辛さを励ましてくれるより忘れさせてくれる方が嬉しいね。
慰めるな、励ますな。なんだよ、お手上げじゃないかよ。
慰めるな励ますなは心理カウンセラーの鉄則だって知ってる？結局心の傷ってのは自分で治すようにできてる。周りの人が治したとしてもそれは本当の完治じゃない。だからレナが自分で元気になるのを私たちは見守るしかないんだよ。
理屈じゃ理解できるが、なんだか薄情な気がして好きになれねえな。
What happened, Samus? I clasped my hands behind the back of my head, looking at the ceiling. Mion laughed.
それだけレナのことを心配してくれるケイちゃんが身近にいるならレナは立ち直れるよ。
近くにいるだけでか？うさんくさいな。
ケイチにだってできることがありますですよ。
Chan spoke up. Wonder how long she'd been listening to our
俺にもでき
conversation.
ることがあるのか？
レナが話したいと思った時や打ち明けたいと思った時に静かに聞いてあげることなのです。
What happens if you fail it? Is it like an instant death kind of situation?
聞くだけでいいのか？励まさなくていいのかよ。
ケイちゃん、打ち明けるだけで心が軽くなるもんだよ。静かに耳を傾けるのが何よりも嬉しい時ってある。
ミーの言う通りなのですよ。レナが話したいと思った時、いつでも話しかけられる場所にいてあげるのも、きっと仲間として大切なことなのだと思いますです。
Mion and Rika-chan were absolutely right. I was going to pat Ren on her shoulder and tell her to cheer up when I saw her next, but now I know that would have been one-sided on my part. Rena doesn't want to feel down herself. She wants to cheer up, if at all possible. If I cheer her up irresponsibly, she'd be very disappointed because she'd think that I didn't understand her pain.
そうだな。俺、ちょっと人の心ってやつを理解しようとしてなかったな。レナを励ましたいのは俺の欲求であって、レナの求めることじゃない。ありがとな、二人とも。俺、ひょっとすると今日まで何か勘違いをしてたかもしれないぜ。
On that day, I thought I cheered her up, but I started to doubt if I had reached her heart. I might have just been dragging her someplace where I wanted her to go. I wasn't on her side in the real sense of the term. All of a sudden, Rika-chan patted my
一
head.
番のレナの味方ですよ。それは疑わなくて大丈夫なのです。
俺、また考え事を口に出しちまってたのか。
レナの心には届いてるよ。ケイちゃんはあの日、とても強い力をレナに与えたんだからさ。いやー、でもさ、よくよく思い出すとすっごい恥ずかしいこと言ってたよね。
We heard footsteps from the hallway, and everybody started to head back to their desks.
お待たせしました。それでは委員長、号令。
Dang it, flies. We didn't have a club meeting that day because Rena wasn't around. That worked out for me, because I had an errand to run. It wasn't a big errand. My mom wanted me to use her point card to get some detergent. I didn't see the point of going all the way to the store just to get detergent, but my mom told me to go because she's busy helping my dad with his work. I started walking toward the shopping center. I noticed someone was watching me, hiding behind a distant tree. I wonder who would do such a mischievous thing. I stared at them to find out who it was, at which point they emerged.
レナじゃねえか。
Are you feeling better now? I was about to say that, but I swallowed the words. Somehow, Rena looked very serious.
どうしたんだ。
Rena put her index finger to her lips, told me to be quiet, looked around carefully, and beckoned for me to come over. I had no idea what was going on, but I followed her instructions, shut my mouth, and ran to her. Rena gestured for me to squat down, to hide in the shadow of the bush. I didn't know why I had to do that, but I could ask her the question later. I just followed her orders for now. Rena looked like she was making sure no one was following her. If it was Mion, she'd do something like this just to fool me, as a joke, but I know Rena doesn't do things like this for fun. I had no idea what kind of situation I'd gotten myself into, but I could feel how tense it was, and I made myself as small as I could.
もういいよ。ごめんね。
The tone of her voice made me relax a little.
どうしたってんだよ、一体。
多分私、誰かに最近後をつけられているの。
なんだって。
Who would follow her? When I thought about it, I realized how stupid the question was.
警察かよ。
Rena, Mia, and Tepi Hojo, 2 people disappeared. Even though they were awful human beings, the police had to investigate if they found out that they'd gone missing. It probably wouldn't be too difficult to find out that Rena had often been to Rena's house. It should be okay. As long as they don't find those bags, it should be okay.
警察なのか警察じゃないのかわからないけれど、綿流しの夜以降、誰かにずっと見られている気がするの。
どういうことだよ。
Once I asked that question, Rena stared directly at me with a blank expression. Her eyes looked as though they were evaluating me. She stared at me as if she was assessing whether I was worth talking to about something very important. Rena squeezed her own wrist tightly, then started talking in a
話
whisper.
してもいいけど、誰にも内緒にできる？
あ、もちろんだぜ。レナがそうしろってんなら誰にも喋らない。
圭一くんなら信用できるよ。
Smiled and looked around one more time.
連中はひょっとするとミオさんのスクラップ帳を探しているのかもしれないの。
ミオさんで、ああ、看護師の高野さんのことか。あとスクラップ帳って何のことだ？
秘密の捜査になっているって言ってたから、多分圭一くんは知らないよね。高野美代さん殺されたんだって。
いつ？
She told me to be quiet again. I lowered my voice and let her
また
continue.
流しの夜、私たちは美代さんと、あと富武さんに会ったよね。あの直後に二人が襲われたんだって。富武さんはお社様のたたりにあって喉をかきむしって死んだ。美代さんは隣の県の山中で焼き殺されていたと言ってたの。
それ本当かよ？そんなの誰も知らないぞ。
うん。それは警察が伏せて捜査をしてるからなの。hinamizawa村連続開始事件は今年で5年目になっちゃうでしょ。だから変に騒がれたくないんで事件を公にしていないんだって。
なるほど。秘密捜査なのは分かったが、レナはそんな話どこで聞いたんだよ？
内緒だよ。私実は大石っていう沖宮署の刑事さんと連絡を取り合っているの。その人に教えてもらった。
どうして大石って人が
Okay, so clearly they haven't been talking to Keiichi, only Rena this
さ
time.
あ、ちょっとそこはわからない。彼が言うには私なら信用できそうだからって言うんだけどね。
I was dumbfounded to hear all this, but I knew she wasn't lying. If it was Mion, she'd be sticking her tongue out by now, but Rena wouldn't make a joke out of something like this.
ミオさんが殺された理由は多分彼女の研究のせいだと思うの。ミオさんがこの村の歴史とか民族学とかそういうのを熱心に調べてたってのは知っている？
なんとなくは聞いたことある。
Takano-san was interested in the occult and mysterious things. I remember Mion once told me that she was studying the village's legends of man-eating demons, out of
彼
curiosity.
女は多分その研究の中でこの村に関するある重要な秘密を知ってしまったの。あるいは彼女はそんなにも確信には踏み入ってなかったのかもしれないけど。
ちょっと待て。この村の秘密ってなんだよ？
私はミオさんのスクラップ帳をほんの数冊借りて読んだだけ。でも彼女が特に大事にしていた秘蔵の数冊だからかなり重要なことが記してあったと思う。だから多分ミオさんが至ろうとしていたことに8割方ぐらいは近づいていると思うの。でもあまりに突拍子もなくて私にはまだ信じられない。ミオさんの想像が正しいかどうか検証してる段階なの。
で、なんなんだ一体？秘密を知ると殺されるっていうこの村の秘密ってのは。
I gasped the moment those words left my mouth. Rena told me I might get killed too.
圭一君にはまだ全部話したくない。確証が持てたら話すね。だってそれくらいに途方もないとんでもない話だから。
確証ってなんだよ？
例えば予備知識のないことは私自らがその存在を検証できているけど、他にもたくさん未検証のことがあるの。それらを埋めていかないと私ですらにわかには信じられない。
Maggots? I was totally lost now and wanted to ask her some questions, but I decided not to cut in. It was so hot outside. Rena held her arms as if she was cold.
俺はいつだってお前の味方なんだからな。俺だけは信用してくれて構わない。
ありがとう。その一言がすごい嬉しい。
From her expression alone, I could tell that she really meant it. I could also tell that she was involved in something very big, and that she felt lonely because she couldn't tell anybody else about it. I had to be on her side while she was going through a difficult time.
私とね、今日ここで出会ったことは内緒にした方がいいと思うの。私と接触があったことが知られたら、圭一君にも危害が及ぶかもしれないから。
わかった。俺に何か協力できることはないのかよ。
今はない。でも協力をお願いできることが分かっただけで、今の私には心強いよ。最後には頼らせてね。
おう、任せとけ。
し、車が来る。
Rena pushed my head into the bush, went along with it and crouched down even lower in the bushes. We stayed quiet for a while. I could hear a car coming closer, and after a while, a white van passed by. I was surprised at her hearing. She heard the car coming when it was still far off in the distance.
今の車、ナンバー見えた？
いや、ごめん。見えなかった。
私もちょっと見えなかったけど、多分さっきと同じナンバーの車だと思うの。
その、レナを尾行しているとかいう連中か？
多分。普段車なんか通らない道で、今日は何度も追い上げられるの。その度に私は隠れてやり過ごしているからいいんだけど。
そいつらなのか？高野さんたちを殺して、レナが持ってるスクラップ帳を狙っているという連中は。
多分。
I don't blame her for not being able to believe what's going on, because this is really crazy. Takano-san uncovered something really significant through her studies. People who want that information hidden found out about it. They killed her on the night of Watanagashi, copying the curse for Yashiro-sama. They're looking for the scrapbooks, the fruits of her research, and Rena has them. That's why they're trying to kill Rena?
じゃあ、レナの家が危ないってことはないのか？
大丈夫。スクラップ帳はゴミ山の私の隠れ家に隠してある。お父さんが不安だけど、何も知らないからこそ何も危害が及ばないかもしれない。圭一君が言わなくても顔に書いてあるよ。突拍子もない話でとても信じられない。
I want to deny it. I felt bad to lie. I remained silent in the affirmative.
それが当然の反応。私だってミオさんのスクラップ帳を読み始めた最初はなんだこりゃって思って全然信じられなかったもの。すべてに目を通してようやく何かの筋が見えてきたんだもん。
すまん。もちろんレナの味方になりたいのは本心だ。でも話が全然見えないんで、どう助けてやればいいかわかんないんだ。
話せば圭一君の身にも危険が降りかかるよ。
レナにはすでに降りかかってるんだろ？ならおあいこだぜ。気にするな。
わかった。話す。多分ミオさんたちを殺したのはHinamizawa御三家。もっとはっきり言ってしまえばみーちゃんの家であるその先。
どうして？
圭一君も過去の連続開始事件は知ってるよね？
ああ。ダム戦争の時の村の旧敵ばかりが毎年犠牲になっていくっていうあれだろ？
この連続開始事件はダム戦争の生産のようなものなの。村の裏切り者を片付けることによって本当の意味でダム戦争を終わらせようとする。
確かにそう見えないことはないよな。誰もがはっきりと口にはしないが、うすうすと園崎家の仕業だと疑ってるみたいな話は聞いたことあるぜ。
でも裏切り者を制裁するなら別に綿流しの場にこだわらなくてもいいんじゃない？毎年たたりで一人、鬼隠しで一人なんてスローペースで殺す必要はない。そうでしょ？
I've never heard the words demoning away before, but Rena clearly thought they have some kind of creepy, significant meaning, so I decided not to cut
つ
in.
まり
これらの連続開始事件は綿流しの祭りに神聖性を取り戻そうとする意志があるの。もっと踏み込んで言うと、明治以降に失われた鬼ヶ淵村の神聖性を取り戻すための段階的イベント。彼らは最終的には太古の昔にそうだったような原理的なお社様信仰を復活させることを目的としている。
お社様信仰、古出神社のことか。
そう。古出神社って崇められていると思う？お年寄りの人は敬っているけど、それだけだよね。子供たちは境内を遊び場くらいにしか思ってないし、ほとんどの村人たちも地域の集会所くらいにしか思っていない。その神聖性は失われている。それがダム戦争をきっかけに蘇ったの。彼らはそれをお社様信仰を復活させるいい機会だと捉えた。
ってことは、つまりお社様信仰の信者たちが裏で暗躍しているってことか。
そういうこと。そもそもお社様信仰は御三家によって管理されていた。だから御三家には現代にも脈々とお社様信仰を復活させなければならないという至上目的が受け継がれているの。それを思えば、御三家がダム戦争中に村を一丸にまとめたり、廃れかけていたお社様を引き合いに出し、古出神社にわざわざ同盟事務所を設けた理由も透けて見えてくる。
じゃあhinamizawa村連続開始事件ってのは、いや、お社様を信仰する盲信的な集団の仕業なら、待てよ、どうして高野さんが殺されなきゃならないんだ。
それは御三家が鬼ヶ淵村と呼ばれた太古からずっと隠してきたこの村のある重大な秘密に関係があるの。それを暴かれるとお社様という神の神聖性が失われる。だから彼らはミオさんの研究が確信に近づいたことを知り消したの。
その重大な秘密ってのは何なんだ。それを知ると俺も狙われるってんだろうけど、上等だぜ。
だからそれはまだ言いたくない。私自身が10割の確証を得るまで言いたくない。多分今ここで話しても圭一君は耐えきれなくなって笑い出してしまうに違いないもの。
おいおい、俺がそんな奴に見えるかよ。
もう少し時間が欲しいの。あまりの事実に私ですら受け入れきれていないの。だからもう少し時間を欲しいの。お願い。
わかった。
今日ここで話したことは誰にも喋っちゃダメだよ。
わかったよ。
じゃあ圭一君はもう行って。私はもう少し辺りを伺ってから行く。用心に過ぎるということはないからね。
Rena ducked low in the bushes and moved away. I was left alone there. The cries of the cicadas surrounded me, making it seem as if I was alone there the whole time. I started walking, still dumbfounded. In the end, Rena didn't tell me the secret because she was afraid of putting me in danger, but she told me clearly that there are people who want to resurrect the cult of Oeshiro-sama, that they're among the 3 families that control the entire village. They orchestrated the series of mysterious deaths for that purpose, and they killed Takano-san because she got too close to the secret they wanted to hide. Rena met Takano-san and happened to obtain the scrapbooks in which Takano-san wrote about her research. Rena still can't believe the secret written in the scrapbooks because it's just too crazy. Hey, come on, Rena. Kidding me, right? It's like one of those comic book stories. Mysterious occult group is plotting a conspiracy. I mean, it's not funny even if it's a joke. But Rena's right about one thing. Even if this is true, it's really hard to believe. I understand why Rena wanted to wait to tell me the secret. Maybe she was just fooled by Takano-san. But Takano-san was murdered for real. But is it also true that someone's following Rena looking for the scrapbooks? I remember Rena said that a white van was following her. You can see white vans anywhere, but there's a lot in this village alone. She might just be oversensitive to everything right now. Rena still hasn't recovered from the shock since that day. It's probably why she's got the idea in her head that the police or someone else is coming after her. I didn't cut in while she was talking. I think I did the right thing. I'd said that it was ridiculous or something to her face, Rena wouldn't have ever trusted me again. At that point, however, I gasped. The white van was parked on the side of the street. I wasn't sure if this was the same car that passed by earlier since I didn't see the plate number. But the number of people in the car and the ambience of it was similar to the one earlier. There was one other thing that looked suspicious about it. There was no reason to park here. It was on a small road in the middle of the woods. There was nothing around here. No traffic lights, no vending machines, no public phones. Wait, error? What the heck? Bot, you doing okay? Huh. Is it just suspicious, or is it all of them? If I do misquote. Gosh dang it, I updated the bot and things broke, of course. Okay. But I mean, other things worked, because we did... Quote still works. Just literally the entire bot. I do see that since I updated it, they pushed another update. So maybe there was some kind of bug in it that they've already patched. So I'll have to check that out after stream. I don't want to update it in the middle of stream in case it does some wonky stuff. It looks like it's only affecting anything that touches a file. Because quote uses an internal one. Chat quote does as well. And command and like YouTube and Twitter and that were all just local ones. So it looks like it's only affected by anything that's reaching out to a file for randomness. Okay. Files. Because yeah, when I updated it, I ran it, I like made sure it could come online, that it could connect, and then I just did like quote, just to make sure, you know, it could run quote, and that worked. Of course, quote doesn't touch any of the files. I know I haven't moved the files. Oh well, I guess you got quote and you got chat quote, so you can have fun with that. Or I can very quickly go into the bot files and pick a random line from suspicious. On my other screen, I'm just highlighting one line. I can't read it. Samus's is immune to sleep. Pretty suspicious. There you go. I probably wouldn't notice it under ordinary circumstances, but I felt something was wrong. Once I noticed how odd it was definitely suspicious. There were 4 men in work uniforms in the white van. The driver was smoking a cigarette, but the other men were just sitting there doing nothing. If they wanted to take a break or have a smoke, they could have chosen a better place than here. It was possible that they stopped because they had to go to the bathroom really badly, but it didn't seem that way either. They didn't look as comfortable or relaxed like they would if they were taking a break. It looked like they were waiting for something to happen. There was a deep tension in that car. Could they possibly be waiting for Rena? No way. I didn't see anybody walking around here. This road is a back road. No one really uses this road, let alone by car. But it's impossible. I felt bad for Rena to even think about it, but this must be something she'd gotten into her head because she was feeling victimized or something. She must be imagining things because she's still nervous. When her friends caught her in the act of killing Rena and Teppy. I heard someone say that when I passed by the van. He couldn't mean me. He didn't even know who I was. So I assumed he was talking to one of the other people in the car. I pretended I didn't hear him and kept walking by, and then he said it again. And honked the horn as well. He had a strong accent similar to that of the older villagers. He must live here, but I didn't know him. I could tell he didn't know me either because he didn't call me by name.
はい、そうですけど。
兄ちゃん、学校からこの道をずっと歩いてきたんで、ちょうど文房具屋の角を曲がって。
そうですけど。何か？
They were probably lost, I thought. This village has many small turns, you can get easily lost when you try to take a shortcut. They must have been waiting for someone to ask for directions. But then, he said something disturbing.
兄ちゃんさ、この道の途中で女の子に会わんかったかいね。
え、
白い帽子に白い服を着た女の子なんよ。紫のリボンもついとん。会わんかったかいね。
They were definitely talking about Rena.
会ってないです。
I wasn't ready to hear them ask that. Rather, I was scared. That's why my voice got all shaky. Up until that point, I couldn't believe Rena's story. I thought it was ridiculous. I actually laughed, if only to myself. That's why I wasn't ready at all. My heart was beating fast and I was sweating all over. I immediately answered no, I didn't, but it would have sounded like an obvious lie. The driver stared into my eyes. He looked like he was trying to figure out if I was lying or not. My legs started to shake. I felt like a frog under the glare of a snake, and I couldn't move a muscle for a while. I think the same went for those men, too. They were clearly a suspicious group, and they just asked a villager about a girl out of the blue. Anybody would get suspicious. I was right. The man broke the ice and started making excuses before I even asked him why he wanted to know about the girl.
そんな深い意味はないんで。さっき女の子を追い抜いたのによ。来たのが男の子だったから。
そうですか。
忘れてえな。
That's not a real excuse of like, oh, we just passed by her before and wanted to know where she was.
ごめんな兄ちゃん。うちらもう行くんて。
The man started the engine and drove away. After they left, I saw nothing. That's right, nothing. There was no reason why they had to park here. So, were they really waiting for Rena? We got lunch takeout list too. Oh, and we got an achievement called the Mystery Machine. Except I don't think they were nice people out trying to solve a mystery about a weird lighthouse keeper. Alright, so last time the lunch takeout list was written on the back of some medical documents from when Rena was in hospital in Ibaraki. And it looks like it's going to continue that way, probably with another lunch request on the back. Furthermore, it's important that we closely monitor her father, since he's also suffered mental shock from the divorce. He's been trying hard to take care of the patient. There's a strong possibility that he may develop an induced delusional disorder. As the first step of mental care, we should listen to the patient's story carefully without denying it. It's the most basic of basics. However, when the patient and the listener are related, it's easy for the listener to become deeply influenced by the patient's delusions. Additionally, delusional parasitosis is widely known to make people highly impressionable. The influence sometimes can spread throughout a whole community. Therefore, even if several people claim to acquire a parasitic infection, it doesn't necessarily prove the existence of a parasite. Some of the phone calls to the healthcare centers for the extermination of pests are nothing but a mass delusion. Since the subject matter of the delusion in this case is extremely rabid, the patient might harm or even kill each other in abnormal ways. Believing this to be the treatment for the disease, they may also give up hope and commit suicide together in the worst case. Welcome back, Candy. We're talking about mass suicide by induced delusions. Critical Role was probably more fun. This influential delusional disorder, otherwise known as shared psychotic disorder, shows a particularly strong possibility of influencing close companion. Anyone who's going to contact the patients must be made to understand that the patients are under medical treatment and must be warned not to be influenced by the patient's delusions. I mean, yeah, it can be. I never really got into Critical Role, which surprises a lot of my friends considering I was into D&D pretty heavily. Yeah, I don't know. I never got into it. It just wasn't as fun for me watching someone else play as it was to be playing myself. You can finally quit. There were other ones. Is that a completion time, Samus's, or the rage quit time? There was sometimes when back when I was willing and able to go to a gym, not going back to gym anytime soon, where I would have some D&D podcasts I would listen to, and one of them was basically like Critical Role, except just a podcast version, so no visuals. And your sight is fading time? Yeah, that's probably a good time to stop. Yeah, a lot of these ones actually, it's very simple. Like especially if your medium works well as a podcast as well, to turn it into a podcast. I also learned this maybe 2 years ago. I haven't really done anything with it, but there are some podcasts which just have a video that plays with them too. Like there's special podcast players that also have a video, which is basically just like watching a YouTube series. So like I don't understand why that's still a podcast, but there's some podcast places that allow you to upload videos. Seriously, Samus says you should probably just like step away, like go close your eyes, do something away from a screen for a bit. Don't worry about having to be here. All right, so we'll save that. We're actually flying through the chapters a lot quicker than I thought we would. I can mod myself, Samus. It's fine. I would have said my bot, but clearly my bot would just return error for everything. Wait. Let me look at Lurk. Maybe Lurk was so small that I just wrote the command inside as just like a random number generation with like a full set of. Where's Lurk in my thing? It's in alphabetical order. Lurk. No, Lurk does read from a file. Wait, does that mean the others work now? Okay, I have no idea why Lurk works and none of the others do. I really have no idea. The bot hates all of us, Samus. It even hates me, its owner. See? It hates me too. Can I lurk in my own stream? Aha. Yeah, there's no stream now, I'm just working instead. So weird. I'll take a look at this after stream. Like I said, my first thought is I updated my bot, and I can already see that they pushed another update. This update was only as of like Tuesday or something, Monday or Tuesday, and I just didn't feel comfortable downloading it before Wednesday, because I had no time to test it. Apparently I didn't test it enough, because half of it still errors out.
俺はどこかでレナの話を疑ってたよ。本当にすまない。
いいよ、ケイチ君。そのおかげで待ち伏せをやり過ごせたんだしね。
あいつらは何者なんだ。そのお社様信仰を復活させようとする信者の集団の手先。
彼らにはそういう自覚はないと思う。彼らを操っている黒幕はそうなんだと思うけどね。多分ダム戦争の当時から陰で様々な工作をしてきた連中なんだと思う。
ダム戦争の最中に園崎家が裏でいろいろと暗躍したって話は俺も少しは聞いたことがあるな。
名な話だよね。これは大石さんに聞いたんだけど、ダム戦争の最中に誘拐事件があったんだって。これも秘密の事件なんだけど、なんでも
We lived through that kidnapping one. That's chapter
ダム
4.
建設中止の約束を裏取引したんだって。
大臣の孫を誘拐？おいおい、そんなの聞いたことないぞ。
大臣が犯人との取引に応じる姿勢を見せたため、事件を公にしないことになったんだって。大石さんは当時その事件に関わったから知ってるんだって。
うんうん。それで？
大石さんが言うには、孫の誘拐や大臣の脅迫などの手口は恐ろしいほどに高度だったんだって。その事件は園崎家が命令を下したことだけは分かっているけど、結局未解決なんだって。当時園崎家の当主である園崎お涼は武装闘争の方針を打ち出していて、配下である暴力団組織の中に特攻隊を組織したそうなの。ダム計画の撤回がどうしても望めないときは、建設省に突入して武力制圧しようなんて、そんな物騒な計画を本気で練っていたらしいの。
Everybody knows that the Sonozaki family had tried to stop the dam project, even if it meant breaking the law. So I wasn't surprised to hear that she had a dangerous plan like that. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Mion who came up with the idea. The plan sounded just like her.
結局その計画は計画のままで終わったんだけど、それを実行するための特攻隊の訓練というのは行われていて、相当高度なものだったらしいよ。
Are you gonna tell me about the Amazon Prime one? What's it called? Yeah, Vox Machina. Yep. I'm pretty sure like the first day it came out, I had a coworker who's like, yo, you have to watch this. And we're like, I'm literally watching videos people told me to watch from 7 years ago, man. I'll get to it in 8 years. Wish she had uncovered the information right after the dam conflict ended. At the time, Oreo even said if the village was going to be submerged, all the members of the Onikafuchi Guardians would choose to stay in their houses and drown. You say this, Candy. I have anime on my list that's like literally the same thing that people have told me to watch in university, and I graduated, what'll it be? 7 years this spring? Because Oreo was behind those things, I couldn't just laugh off the idea of an armed assault on the Ministry of Construction. According to the information Oishi sees, she planned a suicide mission as a last resort when the dam conflict started to heat up, in case the resistance wasn't successful. It actually obtained weapons and put people through training for the sake of that plan. The Special Attack Corps were flown to America, having received a huge amount of money from Oreo for that operation. In the southern desert of the United States, some retired military soldiers gave them highly professional training. Wow, this has so much text that they had to make a smaller font size for it. While the plan was never carried out, the Special Attack Corps became a death squad under the direct control of Oreo after they came back from America. They were involved in many unsolved terrorist incidents, and they succeeded in kidnapping the grandson of the minister as well.
嘘みたいな話だな。
みーちゃんがよくヘリの操縦から無線機まで何でもできるみたいなことを言うでしょ。あれは本当。みーちゃんも当時その訓練に参加してるらしいよ。
じゃああいつ本当に？
まあみーちゃんの話はともかく、このひなみ沢には大臣の孫すらも誘拐できるだけの
Cool, small village with a death squad. What could go wrong? I didn't take a close look at the foreman and the white Vance, but thinking about it, they did look professional in a way. They were pretending just to be on break, but I could tell they were tense the whole time.
あいつらはレナの命を狙っているのか?
Are you talking about the meat showers? Or the shower hydrate water?
多分狙ってはいないと思う。
No, there's no meat showers in this game.
殺すだけだったら 私もう殺されてるよ。
There was a steamy shower. A banana. I don't know. I'd call it a mushroom shower. Mushrooms are the way to go to replace meat, in my opinion.
じゃあ狙いはまさかあれか。
Wait, does Panic have a tofu shower? He does like tofu and waffles.
高野さんのスクラップ帳。
Bananas work well to replace egg, if you want to make it vegan.
圭一君が見た通り、連中
Like
は
was
警戒心が強いの。
2 or 3 weekends ago, my wife and I we made waffles, but instead of putting egg in, we had like some old banana. It wasn't like old enough to like throw in the freezer for banana bread yet, but it was old enough that we didn't want to to eat it. So we're like, we'll just mash it up instead of the egg and put it in our waffles. So we had banana waffles.
だって強引な連中なら私の自宅の寝込みを襲えばいいんだから。
それをしないってことは結構慎重だってことになる。
What are bananas but long mushrooms?
多分私がスクラップ帳を持っているという確信がないからだと思うの。彼らはミオさんを殺し、持っていたスクラップ帳をすべて処分しようとした。ところが一番重要な数冊が抜けていた。
Hope you're feeling better, Samuses.
それで自分が狙われているのを察して誰かに預けたんじゃないかと考えてるんだと思うの。その有力候補が私なんだと思う。でも確証がないから。
Well, if you need to leave again, Samuses, just go ahead. It's fine. But if you're gonna stay, glad to have you around for it.
レナ、お前かなりヤバい橋を渡ってるんじゃないのか。
そうだね。ちょっと怖いかな。でもそう簡単には消されないよ。私は大石さんと連携している。
Got another cat, so you had cow. Dang, what were your other cats? Cow, Hurry and Squeak, right. So what's this one? Choco? Is it like a brown tabby kind of look? Because it's chocolate, so it's Choco. Ah.
有事の際に備えて常に連絡を取り合っているしね。
I was talking about this in someone's other chat. In Europe, is there like a limit to how many animals you can own? Ah, gotcha. Because I know, at least where I am, the limit, I can't remember what it is for cats. For dogs, the limit is 4. You can't have more than 4 dogs in a house. I'm sure people have more than 4 dogs in a house, because, like, who's going to go and enforce that? And, like, the only one who would really know is, like, a nosy neighbor. Or if you tag them all and someone's like, hey, this person has, like, 8 dogs tagged to their name.
そうだ、大石さんはどう言ってるんだよ。
大石さんも園崎家が何らかの暗躍をしていないか監視してくれてるよ。
Fake names.
高野さんのスクラップ帳の話はしたのか。
But Samus says you'd have to give the real address. Like, the whole point of getting your animal chipped is so that if something happens to them, they'll come back to you. Oh, and they're big buddies. I'm glad they're having a good time together.
話してない。
Wait, real life isn't the internet.
警察には話した方がいいだろう。それに警察ならきっと力になってくれるぞ。
圭一君、私は君にだって信じてもらえるか自信がなくて話せないでいるんだよ。大石さんに話したって
So we now have two geckos, and one of the things I'm sad about is they can never meet each other because one of them will eat the other one. Because that's just like their nature. It's like, oh, I kind of wish they could like hang out and play together.
なあレナ、もう煙に巻くのはなしだ。話してくれ。一体何なんだ？
And the best part is there's like a small one who I had on stream on my shoulder on Wednesday, and there's a longer one, and it's the small one that would eat the bigger one.
何がスクラップ帳に書いてあるんだ？高野さんが消されるほどの何が書いてあるんだ？
簡単に言うと、このスクラップ帳に書いてあることが事実なら、彼らの神が貶められることになるの。
神を貶める？
そう、お社様の神聖性が失われてしまう。だから、お社様信仰
And
を
the
復活させ
small
よう
one,
とする彼らは、
he's arboreal, so he likes to climb. So he'll like up like the glass on the sides of his terrarium, but he can also just like come out. So he was just like chilling, just like stuck on my shirt for like this afternoon.
すまんレナ、もう少し分か
I
り
will
やすく
take a look.
つまりどういうことなんだ？
Of course they're in a box. What did I expect from cats? Of course they're in a box.
つまり、お社様は神様じゃない。
Did you see this was a thing that went viral on the internet
神様じゃ
earlier this week or late last week, where this couple, they have 3 cats and they had bought a new, I think like food processor or blender or something, left it in the box and put the box on their floor. And when they came back, one of the cats was on it. And the cats just stayed on the box for, it was like 40 days, just rotating who was sitting on the box so that the owners couldn't open up their new blender. And they did things like they got a fake box that with like the same brand logo and stuff, it just had nothing in it, and put it down next to it, hoping that they would jump onto the other box, but they didn't take the bait. It's fantastic. I had no idea what she read that made her so certain, but whoever it was, it'd be sacrilegious for people who believe so strongly in Oyashiro-sama.
お社様の教えっていくつもあるけど、その原点はたったのそれは。
So we bought the dog some toys on Thursday, and it looked like a can of Pringles, except it was, you know, the like fluffy material, I don't know, like a cloth material. And at the bottom, it was like the rubber that you can stuff treats into. It took him all of about 15 minutes to rip it in half. So $1 per minute he was entertained.
隣人を愛せとか、家内安全とか、縁結びの神様なんてのは、本当に後から取ってつけたものでしかないの。
In other words, Oyashiro-sama existed solely to stop the villagers from going outside the village. Oyashiro-sama doesn't bless the villagers or protect them from disasters. The people believe that Oyashiro-sama does all that for them. But the truth is the people abuse his name for that purpose. Generation after generation, and nothing more than that. Why did Oyashiro-sama descend in the first place? Because demons came out of Onigifuchi Swamp and attacked people.
この時点で解釈が違ってたの。
Cats are fun.
鬼が湧き出して襲ったんじゃない。湧き出したものにやられると、人々を襲う鬼になるの。
湧き出したもの？
Got him a catnip sausage. Yeah.
どういう意味だよ？
The problem with our dog is he's like a solid 130 or 135 pounds. They just don't make stuff big enough for him. Like the bed behind me that we have for him is, I don't know. How big are you? like 3.5 by 5 feet or something like that. He barely fits on it, and you just can't find bigger stuff. And even if you do, he'll rip into it. You need like the nice durable stuff. You don't do freedom units. A meter by 1.1 meters, something like that. Meter by 1.5 meters. Surrender units. I mean, we were on the side when we burned down the White House, just saying. Whatever came out of the swamp, he possessed people, crawled into their blood, controlled them, and turned them into demons. People had no resistance against whatever it was that came out of the swamp. They became demons, attacked the other villagers, and turned them into demons as well. Apology units? I'm the other way. I can do linear stuff. I can do feet and centimeters. Samus's. Wait, what did I just switch? Alternate voice acting? Interesting. Skull units. Actually, if you look at my channel points, they're called suspicions. And Samus says, you should know that as my mod, so shame on you. And also shame for still being here. Your eyes were tired? You shouldn't be here looking at this scold. I hope you have your eyes closed for the scold. You can't see what I'm doing. You don't know how many fingers I'm pointing at you right now. Ooh. Lip syncing off. That's like 19. Sorry, I'm having fun. I'm just realizing that there's a bunch of stuff here. So I got lip syncing. I'm gonna press the bunch of buttons. Don't worry, I'm not like leaving or going anywhere. We got alternate voice acting. Leave that off. Alt priority? I have no idea what that is. We're gonna leave lip syncing on. It's like 19. That's right, it was a weird infectious disease that broke out from the swamp. Made the infected people go out of control. The villagers saw this disaster and explained it like so. Evil demons came out of the bottom of the swamp, possessed people, and turned them into demons as well. That is the truth of the story of the demons that came out of the Onigafuchi swamp. Is it COVID? The theory they're presenting in this game is that it is a parasite that originated from the swamp. That parasites, you know, they have your host body, and for the parasite to do well, it, one, usually wants its host body to live, and two, wants its host body to live in the environment that it feels most suitable, which is the village around the swamp. So the theory is that if people move away from the village, the parasite inside them like releases like chemicals or whatever that makes them feel sick and go crazy so that they'll return home. Now, Sam says, I don't think COVID turns people into demons. It just revealed their true form. They were like that already.
そうだね。正確には正しくないけど、そう、医者と呼べる存在。それが降臨して伝染病を治療したの。
We're exposing Karens with COVID.
でも、それは治療ではなく、対処療法でしかなかった。
All this treatment could do is reduce the symptoms of the infection. Villagers could have their symptoms suppressed, but there's no way to kill the parasite that had infested them. After a while, the village was divided into two groups. One group was made up of the people who were already infected, and the other consisted of people who weren't. Without a cure for the disease, the uninfected looked down on the people who could only suppress their violent symptoms. They even talked about drowning them in the swamp. They knew killing the infected people wouldn't solve the problem. The parasites came out of their water sources, including Onigafuchi Swamp. They couldn't fill them all in, or if they did that, they would lose their access to drinking water. They could have chosen to leave the village, but that was hard for them, given this was the location of their ancestors' graves. Under the power of Oyashiro-sama, infected people could live without showing symptoms. Both those who were infected and those who weren't decided to live together equally and coexist with the parasite. That might be what we have to do with COVID, just coexist with COVID. Oyashiro-sama was impressed by the villagers' decision. He decided to stay there and continue to treat
それ
them.
がお社様がこの地にとどまり人と鬼の生活を見守ったの真相か。
そしてお社様は感染者である村人たちに症状を出さないために掟を作った。その最大にして唯一のものが村から出てはいけない。
外から人を入れてはいけないってのはわかるぜ。感染者を増やさないためだろ。でも出てはいけないってのはどういう意味なんだ？
寄生虫たちは気候や風土の関係でこのHinamizawaの地でしか生きられないらしいの。だから宿主である感染者がこの地を離れようとすると強い症状を出してそれを妨害するの。その妨害こそがいわゆるお社様のたたりの正体。
The strongest symptoms of the infectious disease were violence and delirium. Infected people acted just like demons, and the impact of seeing them in the throes of the disease was strong enough to make others describe them as such. They couldn't even let people who had just come to the village. If they had left after being infected, they might go crazy in a faraway land, turn into a vicious demon, and cause a disaster. Infected people were never allowed to leave. When an infected person left the village, they brought them back by any means necessary. That was what it really meant to be demoned away.
ちょっと待てよレナ。だとしたら俺やレナも村人はみんなその病気に感染してることになるよな。でも俺たちはHinamizawaを離れたって別に何の問題もないぞ。実際村人にも結婚したりして遠方に住んでる人も少なくないらしいじゃないか。Hinamizawaをちょっと離れたからって錯乱して鬼と化したなんて聞いたことないぞ。
そう。それはまさにお社様の目論見通りにことが進んだからなんだよ。意味がわかるかな。この村を長い間封印してきたのは寄生虫の害を弱めるためなの。
Hosts are very important for parasites. Something happens to the host, the parasites that live in the host have to share the same fate. In other words, if the host went crazy and attacked people, the host would be captured and killed, which meant that the parasites would die with the host
そ
too.
うか。自然淘汰か。
さすが圭一君。そう。この地で長く生活を重ね、厳しい戒律で生活を続けた結果、寄生虫に対し過敏な人間は錯乱して結局殺された。また感染者を錯乱させてしまうような強すぎる寄生虫はこれもまた錯乱した宿主と共に殺された。その結果寄生虫と人間は互いに相性がいい種だけが残っていった。これこそがお社様の伝説が伝える鬼と人の血は混じり合ったことの真相。
じゃあつまりその寄生虫はほとんど無害なわけなのか。
うん。ミオさんのスクラップ帳によるとそういった無害な寄生虫に感染しているケースというのはかなり多いんだって。食文化にもよるけど、例えば生肉を食べる国では国民の8割くらいが感染している例もあるんだって。でも矯正できてて人体に全く無害だから誰も治療しない。だから撲滅もされない。
なるほどな。
太古の綿流しはね、実は腹綿流しと書く物騒なものでね、錯乱した犠牲者の臓腑を食らうものだったの。でもこれも必要なことだった。
感染して犠牲になった人を食らう。まさかワクチンとか。
圭一君はやっぱり頭がいいね。うん。ミオさんもそう読み解いてる。
Well, apparently we have a vaccine now, so...
伝説では犠牲者を生きたまま解体して食らったなんて物騒なことになっているけど、実際はそんな野蛮なものじゃなくて、もっともっと医学的に取り扱われていたらしいの。強すぎる寄生虫のせいで死んだ犠牲者からワクチンを作り出し、同時に村人の抵抗力も高めていった。
お社様ってのは何者なんだよ一体。医学先進国っていうとドイツか。正体はひょっとしてナンパして流れ着いた外国人医師。
多分圭一君の答えが一番一般的だと思う。ドイツ人ではないんだけど、とりあえず医者的な存在であったのは正解。
古代の伝説の秘密が明かされていくってのはなんだか面白いな。
I don't think that Rena's story is too crazy to be true anymore. Still sounds crazy, of course. I've never heard any theories that explain the legend of the village better than this one.
多分俺も感染してるんだよな。なんだか体中が痒くなってくるぜ。
The cat has the zoomies.
一つの宇宙だよ。
Now, do all the cats get zoomies at the same time? Did they like, oh, is it zoomy o'clock? Curry's zooming. I guess it's time for me to zoom now.
体の中には無数の細菌たちが住んでいる。その中には私たちの生活には欠かせない有用な細菌たちも少なくないんだよ。
ああ、よくヨーグルトとかの CM で言ってるよな。
Zoom together. So they just have a Zoom meeting. Okay.
確かにそうだ。
これもミオさんの受け売りだけど、例えばシロアリっているでしょ。
My dog is like that too. Take him outside, he poops, and then he's like, I've pooped, now I can run to my heart's content.
木材を食い荒らしてしまうアリ。実はシロアリって木材を消化できないんだって。体内に寄生している特殊な細菌が食べた木材の繊維を分解してくれて、その結果シロアリは木材を吸収できるんだって。
Also, I love how you're like, it's not even 3 a.m. yet, it's fine. When you should be asleep if it's like almost 3 a.m.
これも寄生虫と共生している一例だね。
Sleep works? I didn't know that sleep worked. Whenever I hear the word parasites, I feel creeped out almost instinctively. No, some of them aren't so bad to
だから
us.
太古の昔に鬼が淵村
Why
から
does sleep work? Why does lurk
発生
work?
した伝染病は今ではほぼ根絶されたと言っていい。
No, sleep reads a file. I'm pretty sure. Does it? So if I do sleep, dead beard, TV, is it the same one? Oh no, that one. Okay, that one's. Also, he's now dead bear TV'd. Okay, that one's not. Let's try. I know unlurk. Unlurk works, and that one reads from a file. I don't understand either. I wonder. Yeah, I'll have to look into it. I don't know. I don't know why it's having such issue.
無害になったと言うべきだね。
最初はとんでもない話だと思ってたけどさ、こうして種明かしがされるとなんだかサイエンスな感じがしてちょっと面白い話だよな。
私たちには面白いよ。でもお社様を神として崇める人たちにとってはこれはとても不愉快
I think she's out of food. The only time cats can be affectionate is when they're out of food, of course. Takano-san's theory is correct. Oyashiro-sama isn't a god, and the punishment by that god, namely the curse of Oyashiro-sama that people have been so afraid of, will turn out to have just been the symptoms of an infectious disease. I see. That's what dethroning God would
だとす
mean.
ると、もしこの伝染病の病原体を特定して世間に発表されるようなことがあれば、信仰は破綻しちまうな。
そう。
Oh, you got the old rotary phone, and then you got your abacus next to your phone, for when you want to do quick math while you're on the phone.
それこそが彼らの一番恐れることなの。そしてミオさんはその病原体を特定しようとしていた
Oh,
ら
now
しい。
switch to Rena.
そのミオさんが消されたということは
特定できたってことか。
かもしれないね。ミオさんはもういないし、彼女のスクラップ帳にも特定できたとは書かれていない。でも消されるに値する理由が他に思いつかないの。
でもよ、20世紀ももうすぐ終わろうっていう現代だぜ。村人だっていろんな医療機関で検査を受けてきたはずだ。なのにそういう怪しげな寄生虫が摘出されたって話はないんだろう。
うん。確かに病原体そのものは未だ発見されていない。でも確かに何かの規制を受けていることの信号だけは確認されているんだって。
なんだって？本当かよ。
When a parasite enters a human body, the body's immune system cells, eosinophils and macrophages, try to kill the parasite. They secrete an antibody called immunoglobulin E, IgE. The most common way of checking if a person is infected by a pathogen is to look at the levels of this secretion. It's trilling a cow and she's having none of it. It sounds like you got a whole zoo going on there. According to Takano's research, people from Hinamizawa have a very high level of IgE in their blood. That's not all. They also have obvious symptoms of being infected by parasites. They don't have any allergies. IgE simulates mast cells. They secrete histamines and serotonin as a result. These cause an allergic reaction. Ah yes, being allergic to serotonin, you can literally be allergic to your happiness. Sounds about right. That allergic reaction isn't pleasant for humans, but it's necessary for the body to kill the pathogen. But the parasites don't want to be killed, of course, so they secrete substances to counter IgEs. I don't know enough to say from a neurological side, Samus says, if depression is the lack of serotonin or that your body like actively rejects it. Okay, that's a joke. Perfect. Thank you for clarifying. I mean, the things I said could entirely be true. I don't know enough from the neurological side. As a result, the antigen-antibody reaction, namely the allergic reaction, doesn't occur. In other words, the human body that was infected by a parasite secretes a high level of IgE, but doesn't display allergic reactions. Why do I play games with lots of science? We've had physics lessons, now we're having biology lessons. For your information, a human body that's infected by a parasite doesn't suffer from hay fever. You get hay fever due to your body secreting a large amount of IgE because it's mistaken pollen for a parasitic invasion. Okay, thank you for that, Samus's. And yeah, I imagine it changes person to person. I can't imagine that something like depression or anxiety can easily be filtered into as like a single like neurological category. I'm sure there has to be differences, even if they're like very minuscule. As a result, a large amount of stimulants like histamine will be secreted, but your body can't contain the parasite that it's attempting to kill. That's why your body continues to secrete IgE. As a result, the stimulants keep causing allergic reactions. That's how hay fever works. If you have a parasite in your body, it'll deactivate your IgE and suppress the secretion of stimulants. As a result, you don't have an allergic reaction. In other words, there's no hay fever in Hinamizawa, and you can cure your hay fever by moving here.
つまり特定はできなくてもその存在だけは疑いようがないってわけだ。
うん。そうなるね。
I imagine that, Samus. And also, just drugs in general don't affect people the same way. Some people are allergic to certain drugs, and you never know how it's going to react with, say, other drugs you're taking, or just your body in general. That's why, you'll have a drug and it's like, may cause nausea, fever, bleeding, whatever the cases are, because it's going to react to everyone differently.
だとすると、そのスクラップ帳は信心深い連中にとっては
Yeah, exactly. They're way beyond my knowledge as well.
たとえ特定できなくても存在を証明している時点で十分に危険だと思うぞ。
Sounds good, Candy. Sounds about right. Well, have a good night. Hopefully your cats don't trill at you too much.
そうだね。たとえ証拠にはならなくても、彼らにとってはミオさんを葬るに値する危険性があったと思う。
確かに恐ろしい秘密だな。ちゃんと説明してもらえば理解できることだが、いきなり聞いたら刺激が強すぎる話だぜ。
でしょ？だから私も最初は信じられなかったし、圭一君に話しても信じてもらえないと思った。
Aren't you supposed to make Ghetto sleep in the box?
で、大事なのはその事実を隠蔽しようと暗躍してるヤバい連中がいるって方なんだよな。
そう。今大事なのはそっちの方。
Samus says, how did you steal a bed and not notice that Ghetto was there? The fanatics who want to revive the sanctity of the god they worship. Reviving the majesty of their god means reviving the power of that god. And the power of their god is the infectious disease. This infectious disease can't spread nationwide, unlike other infectious diseases. From now on, I'm going to start calling it an endemic disease. That fits better, since it only affects this region. Anyway, the easy solution, Sam says, is your eyes were acting up wonky like half an hour ago. Anyway, the endemic disease of current-day Hinamizawa is different from the one of old times. It's been through a process of natural selection and it's harmless now. In other words, it doesn't do any harm to human bodies. That harm was once interpreted as a curse. A curse is the power of a god, so harmless endemic disease means that the god is powerless. That means the only way to regain the majesty of the god is to revive the curse. In other words, they want to bring back the primitive endemic disease, namely the harmful strong version of the parasite.
ちょっと待てよ。信者たちは神が実は寄生虫だったなんてことは否定したいんだろう。なのに寄生虫を研究するのかよ。矛盾してないか。
矛盾しているよ。だからこの研究は信者たちのトップだけが知る
Candy,
秘密の
we
研究
bought
なん
one
だ。
of those like robot vacuums. The dog will literally go up to it, bark at it, and just like slap it over the top of the head. Even if it's parked in its charging station doing nothing.
彼らは表向きは信仰を盛り上げているけど、その裏では
He got so mad the other day. He was on the bed behind me, but like I said, the bed's too small for him, so he had his head like off the side of it, and the vacuum hit him in the side of the head, and he was so mad at it.
なるほどな。おいおい、なんだかとんでもない話になってきたぞ。
ミオさんのスクラップ帳にはそうとは一言も書かれてないんだけど、
慰霊診療所がどうして？
ひなみ沢の規模から見て施設が立派すぎるのがその理由。そしてミオさんはそこに勤めていた。監督は園崎家にスカウトされてきた細菌学者が正体とか。
監督がか？
ミオさんは余計なことを知りすぎたから消されたんだと思うの。なのに監督が消されない理由は、監督は信者たちに依頼されている立場だから。
そして太古の有害な風土病を研究してるってのか。あの監督が。
ごめん。監督は無関係かもしれないね。今のは私の思いつき。でも研究は間違いなくどこかで誰かにさせている。そしてその研究には5年かかり、ついに完成を見た。
First case was the dismemberment murder by the damned construction workers. Their quarrel had turned into a lynching. That might have had the primitive infectious disease and symptoms, the aggravation delirium, might have kicked in. Victims of the second year were Sadako's parents. There were no witnesses, so the whole event is veiled in mystery. There's a theory that someone might have pushed them over the cliff, since the fence of the observation deck that they fell over was quite sturdy. What if one of them was infected by the primitive parasite? He or she might have become violent and pushed the other over the cliff. The Shinto priest died from a disease, and his wife drowned herself in the 3rd year. He might have died of shock because of a hypersensitive reaction to the infection. His wife might have gone crazy and committed suicide when one of the symptoms, delirium, kicked in. In the 4th year, Satoshi Hojo's aunt was beaten to death, probably by Satoshi himself. Everybody who knew Satoshi-kun remembers how he changed at the time. Showed signs of being both aggressive and delirious. In the 5th year, for the first time in 5 years, the victim experienced the maggot disease described in the old scroll of the Furude Shrine. The reason behind that is unclear, but the stronger primitive parasite could have given its victim a delusion of maggots. This means that they had finally managed to replicate the curse of Oyashiro-sama after 5 years of research. I mean, being on the toilet sounds like not the best time to do that. Tomitake-san is the victim of the 5th year. He died in an extremely abnormal way. I'm the only one who understands his death because I experienced the same thing. See, we don't let the dog in the bathrooms, not just because he would be annoying, but because he likes to root through and eat the trash. No, don't eat the bathroom trash. It's gross. I mean, all the trash is gross, but don't eat the bathroom trash. He kept clawing at his throat to get rid of the maggots and died as a result. With all that explained, I finally understand the maggot disease I experienced in Ibaraki. I left Hinamizawa, and it made the parasite in me uncomfortable. As a result, it tried to resist, even though it wasn't very strong, and it tried to make me homesick. With my parents' divorce, I grew mentally unstable. I completely lost the power to resist for a period of time. The parasite was weak and harmless, but my mental instability allowed it to worsen my symptoms dramatically. Yeah, take care, Candy. Have a wonderful sleep. As a result, I went crazy and became violent. The delusion of Oyashiro-sama appearing to me in the bathroom was probably the terminal phase of my delirium. I created the supernatural existence, Oyashiro-sama, that I was instilled with when I was little. He'll pet all the cats. For Samus's. Samus's, you better return the bed after all the cats being petted. Ghetto's optional, you know. Then I persuaded myself to go back to Hinamizawa based on that delusion. Some of the transcendents of Onigafuchi must have had the same kind of experience. Oh. I clicked one too many times. Some of the transcendents of Onigafuchi must have had the same kind of experience. They must have passed their experiences down as the acts of a god. I remember I once saw on TV that the indigenous people in South America used some kind of natural drug in order to have a mystical experience. That they called it a ritual to communicate with their gods.
じゃあ、信者どもの目的は、その太古の寄生虫を南沢中にばらまくことなのか？
多分それが最終目的だと思う。でも人知れずにそれをやることはないと思うの。宗教にはセレモニーが必要だから。だからもし彼らが望むものを生み出せて、それをばらまく日が訪れたなら、彼らは多分それをお社様の復活の日とでも称して宗教的なデモンストレーションをすると思うの。何か特別な儀式とか、とにかくお社様の復活を祝い知らしめるような盛大な何か。
なあ、それってよ、悪いことなんだよな。
危険性の高い病原体をばらまこうというんだから、多分悪いことに分類されるだろうね。
それって最近テロって言わないか？おい、めちゃくちゃヤバいことだぞ。おい、富武さんの死に方がお社様のたたりの再現に成功していた以上、 X デーは間近ってことなんじゃないのか？
わからない。もう秒読みなのか、まだまだ時間のかかることなのか。
もうこれはレナ一人が抱えていい問題じゃないぞ。かなり笑えない大変だぞ。
Probably.
俺たちにはどうしようもない。警察に任す方がないぞ。
私が話したこと、警察は信じてくれると思う？
信じるかどうかは向こうが判断するだろう。
とにかく話した方がいい。
圭一君、それを大石さんに私が打ち明けたら、私がスクラップ帳を持っていることを告白するのと同じなんじゃないかな。
それってまずいのか？
大石さんの接触はミオさんが殺された後だった。敵はミオさんを殺した時点でスクラップ帳の紛失とその数日前に私が図書館で出会っていることを知っている。
バカな。つまり。
そう、大石さん自体が敵の手先である可能性がある。大石さんは私がスクラップ帳を持っている可能性があると当たりをつけていて、探りを入れてきているのかもしれない。実際彼はうさんくさくて腹を割らない。園崎家を疑わせるようなことを言って自分は味方だと言ってくるけど、彼だってその園崎家の手先かもしれない。
警察を疑い出したらおしまいだぞ。
圭一君、4年目の撲殺事件を知ってるよね。聡子ちゃんのおばさんが殺された事件。あれは犯人はサトシ君以外に考えられないんだけど、その後犯人は麻薬中毒者だったということになった。これをどう思う？
警察内部に盲信的な連中の手先が混じっていて、犯人を捏造したってことか。
3年目の神主さんの病死の検視とか、2年目の北条夫妻の事故現場の見聞とか。警察がもしも彼らの片棒を担いでいるなら、数々の完全犯罪が可能になる。Hinamizawa御三家はダム戦争時から今日に至るまでもずっと警察への圧力を維持してるんだよ。それに沖宮の町のいろんなところに一族が進出して実権を握っているというのはみーちゃんから聞かされたことがあるんじゃない？
確かにそれはミオンの口からだけじゃない。いろんなやつの口から聞かされた。ミオンの園崎家がどれだけ市内全域に強力な影響力を持っているかってのをな。
そういうこと。警察はこの土地では必ずしも信用できない。
なあレナ、すまん。先にはっきりさせたいんだが、黒幕は園崎家なのか？ミオンも関係があるってのか？それだけは先に聞かせてくれ。
御三家であるみーちゃんやリカちゃんが直接関係しているかはわからない。ただ盲信的な勢力が御三家や一番の有力家である園崎家を自由に動かせる中枢部に根付いているのは間違いない。盲信的な勢力が根付いたのか、御三家の中枢が盲信的なのかは分かりかねるけどね。
関係あるかどうかわからない以上、用心に越したことはないってわけだな。
うん。みーちゃんたちのことを疑うわけじゃないよ。普段のみーちゃんは頼もしいし、私も他の心配事なら打ち明けて助力を求めることもあると思う。ただ今回のことはちょっと話の次元が違う。圭一君は見たことあるかな？みーちゃんは普段はふざけているけど、園崎家の次期当主として振る舞うときはものすごく冷酷で別人みたいに振る舞えるの。それにもし無関係だったとしても、それならばやはり耳に入れることで危険に巻き込むことにもなるんじゃないかな。
ミオンたちが味方になってくれればかなり頼もしいぞ。俺は打ち明ける価値があると思うんだが。
だからそれはダメ。敵ではないと確認が取れるまでそれは避けるべきだよ。味方にできれば確かに心強いけど、そうでなかった時はどうするつもり？
じゃあ俺とレナだけでどう戦うつもりなんだよ。
もともと最初から絶望的な戦いなんだよ。だから圭一君を巻き込みたくなかった。
くそ、高野さんめ、とんでもない置き土産を残してくれたな。
でもそのおかげでとてつもない陰謀を知ることができたんだよ。これはミオさんの遺言なんだよ。
村を影から牛耳る何者かに、その村に住まうガキンチョ2人が挑むわけだ。こいつは最高にハードな話だぜ。一筋縄じゃいかねえぞ。
でも圭一君が味方でよかったよ。2人だから話し合えて相談できる。
当たり前だろ。俺は最初からずっとレナの味方で仲間だぞ。
ありがとう。2人なら心強いよ。
一人で悩むよりは 建設的になれるだろうしな。
そうだね。二人でどう戦えばいいか、これからじっくり相談していこう。今日は私、スクラップ帳を読み直す時間が欲しかったから休んだけど、明日からは普段通りに生活するね。おかしな行動をすれば蹴取られてしまうかもしれないからね。ケイチ君も変に構えないで普段通りに生活してね。みーちゃんとか時折鋭いことがあるから特に気をつけて。
わかった。何事もなかったかのように生活するよ。だが畜生、なんだか怖いぜ。とんでもない陰謀が間近に迫ってて、それがもうカウントダウンに入ってるかもしれないってんだぜ。それを知りつつ普段通りに生活しろってのも辛い話だよな。
多分そんなにすぐじゃないはずなの。さっきも言った通り、彼らが信心深ければ深いほど宗教的なセレモニーを必要とするはず。そういうセレモニーは村を挙げて行うものだもの。綿流し以上のイベントは今のhinamizawa沢には存在しない。
ということは、少なくとも来年の綿流しまでは大丈夫ということか。
根拠のない読みだけどね。他に綿流し以上のイベントが思いつかない。
I think we have a year at least, but I also feel like we don't, because of how they killed Mio-san. Might not know, but there might be a bigger religious event than Watanagashi. Might not be long until that day. On the day of Oyashiro-sama's revival, they're going to spread a dangerous parasite. That day might be just around the corner.
Rena, まだ電話してるのか? そろそろ終わりにしなさい.
My father stuck his head out from the living room, telling me I needed to hang up soon. I thought about telling him so many times. It's natural to think that your parents will be on your side no matter what. But I know just how weak he can get, so I couldn't tell him. I don't think he'd believe me anyway. Even if I told him, he'd just tell me to call the police. It's better that I don't tell him. They might get close to my father to get me. If he didn't know anything about anything, including the scrapbooks, there'd be nothing to squeeze out of him to begin with.
ごめんね、ケイチ君。今夜はもう遅いから、これで切るね。また明日、学校で。
おう、また明日。
用心してね。ケイチ君も、もう部外者じゃないんだから。
おう、せいぜい気をつけるぜ。
I remember the suspicious men in the white van and felt a chill run through my spine. They looked like villagers, but they weren't. They had the village accent, but they were just pretending. The more I thought about it, the more suspicious they became. It let me know that Ren and I aren't safe. Ren is right, they're just suspicious of her. I'm not sure if she has the scrapbooks or not. But it's still creepy. Ren had probably experienced the same creepiness I felt when I saw the van several times up until now. She must sense the danger more than I do. However, the fact that they weren't attacking, that they were merely observing us, was disturbing. If they attacked her, she could have done something, like go to the police, but all they're doing is just watching her from a distance. She can't do anything about it, and she can't talk to anybody about it. She probably just wants to stay in her house all day, but if she acted different, they might take it as proof that she has the scrapbooks. We have to think about how to fight against them, without making it obvious. I told myself there was no going back, and I put the phone down. Next day, Rena came to school, acting normal like she said she would. She talked with me on as cheerfully as she always did, and it made me wonder if the story she told me last night was a complete fabrication. Because the story really was too ridiculously crazy to believe. This village has a very weird and rare endemic disease, and there are religious fanatics who want to use the disease to revive their weird cult. They've been researching the pathogen of the endemic disease so that they can spread it throughout the village. I was deeply influenced by Rena last night, and I believed everything she said. But thinking about it, with a cool mind under the bright sunlight, it sounded too crazy to be true. The story Rena told me is based on Takano-san's crazy hand-me-down ideas. It's based entirely on her theories, which, though very feasible, have no evidence whatsoever. The fact that Takano-san was murdered lends credit to the story, I'll give you that, but... I looked at Mion. She was fooling around with Rena. It's hard to believe that she's involved with some crazy conspiracy.
っていうか、聞いてないでしょ、ケイちゃん。
悪い。ごめん、聞いてなかった。
まだ寝ぼけたまんまなのかな？寝不足だとおつむもちゃんと働かないよ。
Mion made fun of me for reacting too slowly. It's almost impossible not to trust this bubbly, cheerful girl. I trust Mion. I trust my friends. I know she'd never have a hand in a crazy conspiracy like that. If she knew about it, she wouldn't be able to act this cheerfully. Rena told me not to tell Mion because she might be one of them, but it might be worth telling her without letting Rena know. Of course, there's at least a 1% chance that the conspiracy is true and that Mion is one of them, and if so, I'd be doomed. But if I had to choose between believing the crazy conspiracy theory and trusting my friends, my answer would be obvious. I know that my friend Mion isn't a part of any conspiracy. She'd never be involved with something like that. Even if the conspiracy exists, I'm sure Mion will be on our side. So whether or not it's true, it must be worth telling Mion about it.
なあに、ケイちゃん、こんなところに呼び出して。それも誰にも内緒で来いなんてさ。まさかカツアゲとかそういうのじゃないよね。
お前な、体育倉庫の裏に呼ばれたら真っ先にそう思うのかよ。
じゃあラブレターとか？でもそういうのは下駄箱が定番じゃない？
都会じゃそうでもないぞ。直接渡す白兵線型も少なくない。
じゃあ
なわけねえだろ。それよりかなり真面目な話がある。
I'm talk to you about something very important despite this creepy music.
茶化しは一切なしで聞いてくれ。
何よ。
お社様信仰を復活させようとしている連中がいるってのは知ってるか？
は？何、ケイちゃん。何の話？
So in the earlier ones, in all the earlier games we've had where Mion ends up just like slaughtering a bunch of people, every time that's been Shion, and Mion's been locked away in the dungeon or murdered. That being said, we do know that Mion has had a hand in several heinous things. For example, she was the one who orders that Shion have her nails removed in that wonderful scene, and doesn't tell her anything about, who the nails are for. To kind of make up for it, she also removes 3 nails herself as kind of like her penance to like share it with her sister. It is hard to follow, and I will give you that. Me being someone who I would say is fairly knowledgeable about the series, even I at times have to look back and like just watching the anime is not nearly as clear as this game. So if you think this is confusing, the anime is way more confusing. Because the anime just like there's just not enough time in like all we've played so far, plus the remainder of this game was cut down into 24-minute episodes. No, it was not written by Kojima. Actually, so I know I've said this before, but the writer for Higurashi is, first of all, a pretty, like, still obscure person. They don't really show themselves in public, and what we know about them is that they used to be a government official in Japan who was pretty pissed off with how the Japanese government was handling a bunch of things. Some of them, namely, being services in rural Japan, that he felt they were prioritizing cities over rural areas, and that rural areas were getting thoroughly shafted. But also just a lot of like mental health services and child care services and things like that he felt Japan was doing an awful job at providing for its citizens. And really, what he says his inspiration for this game was basically a treatise on those scenarios written for the government, basically. It was basically saying, our government sucks, it does a lot of bad things, and here's examples of stuff like Sadako being abused, and they're just being like, oh, we'll see what happens, stuff like that, or corrupt police forces, or just poor practices at dealing with, we've seen PTSD, schizophrenia, all this kind of stuff. And as best I can tell from my knowledge on these things, he has thoroughly researched it and done a pretty cohesive depiction of what many of those scenarios would look like without, both with and without help. But yes, it is a very difficult series to follow. Mion really did look puzzled. People wouldn't normally react like this if someone pointed out their secrets out of the blue. They always panic, if only just a little. Either Mion was a brilliant actress, or she really didn't have anything to do with the idea of reviving Oyashiro-sama. I decided to tell her everything.
お前の家の園崎家ってHinamizawaを含めものすごい影響力を持ってるわけだけどさ。
And I mean, like, going back to it, like, all the original art stuff was all just drawn by the dude. He did the backgrounds, he did the music, he did everything. And I'm pretty sure at his first, like, Comic-Con, which is like the big twice-a-year festival in Japan, he only sold, it was something like 5 or 10 copies of the game. It was a pitiful amount. But the people who did buy it loved it. And from that, he got, like, people who are like, hey, let me do the music for this game. Or like, hey, let me, do art for this game. Well, I'm glad that you find it relaxing when I'm talking about, like, maggots and cults, and maybe this is loosely based on Panic's life. Oh, well, speaking of Samus's, because it's 9 o'clock and I'm not sure if you'll be leaving anytime soon. Starting Wednesday, I'm going to be splitting my time again. So Fridays are going to be Higurashi still. Same bat time, same bat channel. Wednesdays, we're going to be playing Trails of Cold Steel 2. Which hopefully won't take another 99 hours to beat. But yeah, we will be splitting it, so... Because I know this isn't for everyone, and I feel bad if people feel like, they need to skip out on my streams because they don't find the content as something that they can necessarily do. But I do want to finish the content for both for myself and for the people who are interested in it. But yeah, so we'll be doing JRPG Wednesdays and then Visual Novel Fridays. Not that those have any, like, nice names to them. What does this have to do with Panic? Oh, just the cults. If you haven't heard, Panic is starting a bunch of cults. He has a Fortnite cult. He literally has Cult Simulator, where he makes his own cults, and made Cult of the Yoshi, where people worship a Yoshi. Oh, I was just like, maybe this game is loosely based on Panic's life because it's all about cults and conspiracies.
お社様信仰を復興するため何か暗躍してるってことは
No, it had nothing to do with the schedule. My lizard brain just went in that direction.
こうなんで？
いやだからさ今のお社様信仰って大昔の時代に比べたらだいぶ信仰心が薄くなってるだろ。それをさ大昔の鬼ヶ淵村のレベルまで引き戻したいと思っている。
I don't understand either.
原理主義者的な連中が暗躍をしてるんじゃないかって。
はい？
I think I just started into it, clicked so that the next like text would play, and saw the word cult out of the corner of my eye. I think that's all that happened.
ちょっと何よそれ。何の話なわけ？
本当に
Okay, sounds
何の
good.
話かわからないのか？
Now, is that going to be 12 minutes like looping? Is this going to be like a deja vu looping bit? Welcome back, hero. Oh no, you don't have an option to tell me about your Prime sub. I mean, here you go. What's that? Hero subscribe with Prime sub again? Who would have thought about that?
わかるわけないよ。
The panic to the schedule was, I think in my head I was already like on the topic of schedule, and then like my brain like saw the cult and thought of panic, and then just like continued, like it had like been pushed to the top of the stack, and then it popped off the stack, and then I just continued going. Maybe the nerdiest thing I've said in a long time.
何その全米第1位みたいな面白ストーリーはさ。
Yes, there's a new redeem. It's something. First of all, if people have ideas for redeems, this was one I had come up with. Please, by all means, shoot me suggestions. But yes, there's a new channel point redeem, which is Learning Juggle, in which I will attempt to juggle something that I don't know how to do. I do have one currently open. Let me see, what was it called? It's called Takeouts. So what takeouts look like is, geez, if you're juggling, and let's say you caught something here, you do like a big sweep around to bring it. So you're taking it out. So you have this look that kind of looks like you're making like a circle around your face. So that's the thing I'm going to be trying to learn, because it's a prerequisite for a bunch of other tricks. Yeah. Mion's reaction was very natural. It seemed impossible that she was pretending, and she didn't know anything about it. But regardless, I continued.
いや、だから、
Sleep will save you from today.
そういう連中がこの村にいるらしいんだよ。ミオンは知らないか？
お社様信仰を鬼ヶ淵村の時代のレベルに？そんなこ
There
と
you
して
go.
何
Ella
かいい
will
こと
save you. I mean, Oreo will save you. I mean, Oreos can save you from many things.
いや、それは信仰の厚い盲信的な連中に
Just not diabetes.
とても重要な意味があるんじゃないかな。
Oh, well, I know Samus like cats. Do I have any cat emotes that I can send? Alright, generic cat emotes? I guess not. So here, you get a cat bag. I'm sure it contains cats that I don't have emotes for. It's a bag that looks like a cat. Probably contains more cats, because cats would like being in a bag.
だってケイちゃん、大昔の厳しい戒律の頃に逆戻りって誰も喜ばないよ。今のこの現代、村から出るななんて言われたら生活なんかやってられないって。
Oh yes, it's a. Oh, maybe you can't see it. It's a Franker's, whatever that one is. Franker faces emote. Yeah, I've got other generic cat emotes. There you go. There's just cat too. But yeah, cat. The cat bag, it literally just looks like if you took a cat's head and it like melted so it has like a square face, and then like the ears are like the handles almost. The pronoun one is always super broken. It had done well recently, but there was probably like a good 6 months where it was probably like a 30% chance of it working for me. Yeah, and then it did fairly well, I would say, since like the fall. I haven't been on enough today to see it break. I had Twitch on in the background while I was working, but I wasn't like actively chatting. And there's like very few like people who I know have it off the top of my head, or like few chats that I know have it.
例えばほら、リカちゃん。リカちゃんって。
It also annoys me that I don't see it in like my bots on the side.
ちやほやされてるらしいだろ。
Like as a streamer, that would be probably one of the most important times to get people's pronouns correct.
そういった取り巻きの老人たちの中には、きっと執着的な一派が存在して。
リカちゃんの取り巻きっていうと、君吉のおじいちゃんとかのこと？まあ確かに信仰心は熱い方だと思うけど、盲信的ってのはどうかと思うね。
いや、だからいるんだよ。本来のお社様信仰を再び復活させようとしている輩が。
はいはい、話が進まないからこの場は信じるよ。それで？
で、そいつらはお社様の正体がこの土地独特の風土病にあることを突き止め、その病原体を研究しているらしいんだ。
どこで？というか、風土病って何？病原体って何よ？演歌長。
Getting confused, I didn't know what I was talking about myself anymore. I was deeply influenced by Rena last night and believed everything she said, but having said it out loud, I started realizing how impossible the story sounded.
どうしたの？ミオさんに妙なことでも吹き込まれたわけ？
知ってるのか？
有名だよ。あの人オカルトマニアだから、いっつもとんでもない空想話をでっち上げてる。たまに真に受ける人がいるとかなりヘビーに吹き込むって有名なんだよ。私も昔話を聞かせてもらったことがあったけど、結構面白かったな。
それって本当か？
ケイちゃんもどこかで耳にしてるだろうけど、この村は大昔はちょっと特殊な文化があった。それは少し刺激の強い要素のある文化でね。厳しい戒律と厳しい刑罰、残酷な風習は割とオカルトマニアの間では知られてるらしい。ミオさんもそんなマニアの中の一人。
じゃあこの村が怪しげな寄生虫に支配されているという話は？
はあ？寄生虫？それミオさんの新作？
新作ってどういうことだよ？
言ったでしょ、ミオさんはオカルトマニアなの。鬼ヶ淵村の奇怪な伝説などを研究して、あれやこれやの仮説や推理、妄想を楽しんでるわけよ。だからその寄生虫に村が支配されてるって説以外にもいろいろ創作してる。私がずいぶん前に聞いたのは UFO 説だったよ。
I think they mean once I heard, not one I heard.
これが結構辻褄があってて面白いの。太古の昔に鬼ヶ淵村に UFO が墜落して、そこから出てきた異星人と村人で戦いが起こってという感じから始まる B 級 SF ホラーだった。聡子が聞かされたってのは地底人説だったかな。
We already killed the uncle. No, at this point we're being hunted, not the other way around.
地殻変動によって地底王国と鬼ヶ淵村の間に接点ができてしまって、それでなんだっけかな。そうそう、地底王国のお姫様と村の若者が恋をして互いに仲直りをしたっていう SF ロミオとジュリエットだった。んで最新作がどうやらケイちゃんの聞かされた寄生虫説ってわけみたいだね。いやいや、いつかそれらを全部まとめて本にしてほしいよ。
I mean, there is only one person in the whole game who's like called Uncle. I mean, I'm sure there are other uncles in the town, but like none of them are ever talked about, so we've killed all known uncles in the town so far. Mion began laughing so hard that she had to hold her stomach. I looked at her laughing like that. I realized I fell for something that ridiculous. At that point, it was obvious. I'd been completely taken in.
すまんミオ、俺がこれから聞くことに答えてくれ。 まずお社様信仰を復活させようとする連中は実在する？
しないよ。というかむしろ逆。Hinamizawaは外部に対してどんどん開いていって栄えさせていこうということで、御三家はすでに意見を統一してる。これはまだ内緒なんだけど、21世紀までをめどにね、園崎家は現在水面下でその誘致をしててね、うまくいけばここいらは一気に栄えることになる。バッチャはそれによって山林の地価が一気に高騰して大儲けできると踏んでるみたいだよ。まあ21世紀の仕事だから、それは私が引き継ぐ大仕事になりそうだけどね。
じゃあ外部の人間を意味嫌う連中なんてのは存在しない？
だからそんなの存在しないって。ただでさえ不便な村をさらに不便にしてどうするんだか。現に村は今別荘地として売り出しを開始してる。ケイちゃんの家はまさにその第1号じゃないの。村人はみんな歓迎してくれたでしょ。若者の流出を食い止めるため御三家もいろいろと考えてるんだから。
There was nothing vague about what Mion had said. Her story makes a lot more sense than Takano-san's delusional theories. And so Mion's words woke me up from that
じゃあ
delusion.
あれはどうだよ。寄生虫の感染の証拠を示す血液中のなんとかとかいう数値がHinamizawaの住民だけ異常に高いみたいな話が。
そうなの？というかミオさんはそんなのどうやって調べたわけ？
だって高野さんは看護師だろ。調べる気になればいくらだって。
Now, what's important here is they're still talking about her in the present tense. Even though we know at least Keiichi knows she's dead, we assume Mion knows that she's dead as well.
そんな怪しげな調査のために誰が血液採取なんかに協力するの？誰もしないって。それに仮に採血をしたってどこでどう調べたわけ？ミオさんがたった一人で一体何人の血を調べられたっていうわけ？
Mion was right. I couldn't believe I thought Takano-san could do all that just because she was a nurse. It struck me hard to believe that she got that many blood samples into a high-level examination like that without any help. When I thought about it rationally, I shouldn't have believed such a ridiculous story so easily.
寄生虫の寄生の証拠として花粉症にかからないって聞いたぞ。
花粉症って都会の病気じゃないの。あれは確か排気ガスと関係があるんでしょ。ここはHinamizawaだよ、ケイちゃん。というか多分沖宮の人にだって花粉症なんてそうそういないと思うけど。
じゃああれは園崎本家当主直属の暗殺部隊ってのがいて昔大臣の孫の誘拐とかをやったんだろう。
そんなのがいたらかっこいいね。
Even I was sounding ridiculous, but I believed all of it last night. I believed it because Rena looked very serious.
大臣の孫が高津戸のあたりで突然発見されたのは事実だけれど、あれは私たちじゃない。私たちじゃないけど、それを私たちはさも自分たちが犯したように振る舞ってた。
わかりにくいぞ。説明してくれ。
What is even happening? So, basically, Mion is refuting everything that we learned from Rena last night.
ダム戦
Or
争の
trying
当
to, at
時、
least.
鬼ヶ淵刺繍同盟は相当に物騒な抵抗運動をしていたのは事実。脅迫めいたこともやってのけた。でもね、あの当時それを利用するやらしい連中もいたらしいの。
Because the whole point of this series is supposed to be kind of like a murder mystery kind of thing, that you're supposed to try and figure out how, what, why are the people being killed.
鬼ヶ淵刺繍同盟の名を語って金品を要求したりするエセ同盟って連中。
The Onigafuchi Guardians were a very aggressive force at the time. There's a high possibility that some people thought they could use the name to extort money.
その中に大臣の孫の誘拐もあったの。おそらく誘拐犯たちは警察の捜査の撹乱を狙って刺繍同盟のふりをして身代金を要求したんだと思う。正直あの事件は同盟にとっても驚きだったよ。 よく大臣の孫を誘拐できたもんだって話題になったね。犯人たちに会えたら表彰してやろうなんて盛り上がったっけ。
So basically, at the end of this, you're supposed to pick through and like there's grains of truth in everything. You're supposed to figure out what is the real solution. And like I said at the very start of when we started streaming this series, is that this is the last game that's supposed to tell you to give you the pieces that you need. By the end of this game, you're supposed to be able to figure out what's going on and why. That you've been given all the information you need, like a good detective shoofly, a good detective story. And then after that, it's trying to figure out how to stop that from happening.
ちょっと待て。じゃあ大臣の孫の誘拐は鬼ヶ淵死守同盟は何も関係ないのかよ。
うん、全くない。
Mion said it firmly. It was a simple and clear answer which left no room for suspicion. In thinking about it, it's nothing surprising. Kidnapping the grandson of a minister and negotiating with him in person is a huge deal. The Onigafuchi Guardians are a very aggressive group, but this operation wasn't so easy that it could be carried out by the normal residents of Hinamizawa. It was obviously the work of professional criminals without a doubt.
ただね、さっきも少し言いかけたけど、園崎本家はね、この誘拐事件を自分たちが黒幕であるかのように振る舞っていた。
振る舞ったってのはどういうことだ。
これは園崎本家の秘密の家訓なの。ケイちゃんにはこっそり話すけど、話したことは内緒だよ。園崎本家ではね、自分たちに都合がいい何かの事件が起こった時、あたかもそれが自分たちの差し金であるように振る舞うブラフの伝統があるの。
ブラフって、はったり？
うん。自分たちに利することがあったなら、それは事件でなくてもいい。お天気でもいいし、宝くじの当選番号でもいい。あたかも園崎本家が望んだから、そのような結果になったかのように振る舞うの。
We got there.
A special guest.
Who have you got this time? Oh, hi, bud.
He wanted to come out.
Are you gonna come say hi? Oh. He's got a tail on my face. Oh no. Oh. Where are you going? Where are you going?
You got him? Do you want me to say hi to him?
If you can say hi, that'd be good.
No, you can't eat it, Samus.
No, don't be scared.
He's just a baby.
Don't be scared.
Let's go say hi. There you go.
Oh.
He's fine. He's fine.
Fine.
Okay, come on.
Come on, bud.
He stole my lizard. You wanna go play?
You wanna play on my desk? Oh. Yeah, no going around the back of my desk.
Oh, is he heavy enough to type?
No, he's so light he doesn't press the keys on my keyboard.
I was gonna say he can say hi to chat. There you go.
Bud.
Ta-da! Butt. Leo butt. You know what arc we're on?
Wait, left my shoes where?
His shoes in the fridge.
You on a fun trip? On an adventure? How did you get shoes in your fridge?
Did you leave your shoes or the lizard's shoes in the fridge?
The lizard could have shoes.
Right?
Both. Bud.
Okay.
Oh, you can climb out, huh?
Mm-hmm. It's his stream now. I am now the owner of this stream.
At least he won't jump at the camera.
Right. Alright, go
Okay,
back.
bye, bud.
Are you enjoying? Everything looks so different.
This lizard's a baby. We didn't wait a few years. He's not even a year old. Oh, lip sync's back on, because I never knew any of these hotkeys before. That lizard is actually 20 years old. It's weird that it lets me do the lip syncing when lip syncing's only for the console version sprites. Also, what was the other one? Alternate voice acting? It does say not used. Okay. Well, we now had all the pets on stream. We've had both lizards, we've had the dog. That's all of them.
自分たちを本来よりもより強大に見せようとするイメージ戦略。
じゃあほら、ダム戦争時に建設
It's not your
の
lizard. This lizard is
戦争があ
mine.
ったんだろ。
He's give me Hank. Which one is Hank? 'Cause Rufus was your one like mine. So which one's Hank?
あれは
Oh, the French Bulldog. I'm not a fan of French Bulldogs. I don't like the way they're like... Oh, the mic actually didn't pick that up, where they're like... Oh, good mic. You actually block out me breathing like a French Bulldog. That's actually nice. They always sound like they're like... have something stuck in their throat.
しかもそのために武器やら訓練やら。
We had a client 3 or 4 years ago, before COVID, and we'd go into their office, and one of the, I think it was the CTO, had a bulldog named Rhino. And you always knew when Rhino was coming because you could hear him a mile away as he like approached you.
それも全く同じだよ、ケイちゃん。そんなバカな作戦、本当にやるわけないじゃん。
Is that exactly 12 minutes, Sam? Feels like it could be.
最大の目的は、あいつらならやりかねない。
You're late for a very important date with your bed and ghetto in the bed.
最大の目的だったんだよ。つまり、これもまたイメージ戦略ってわけ。
Please remember to feed your ghetto before you go to sleep. "50% pitbull, 20% bronchitis, 20% stupid, and 10% Frenchie." Yep, sounds about right. They obtained weapons and went through training just so they could exact pressure. They had no intention of actually carrying out the plan. Sonozaki family was just bluffing. That made sense. Of course it did. It's impossible to attack the Ministry of Construction. Even if they did, it wouldn't solve the problem. All I had to do was use common sense. I'm not a French bulldog. I have more intelligence than they do. Even if they did, they would have been crushed within seconds by a huge number of policemen. Why didn't I think of that?
じゃあ、武器とか訓練とかってのは？
武器に関してはノーコメントでいいよね。訓練もやったよ。はったりになるようちゃんとしっかりね。
Have a wonderful night, Samuses.
葛西さんをリーダーにお父さんとこの若い衆たちを引き連れてテキサスの砂漠でトレーナーさんと戦争ごっこをやった後はサンフランシスコでのんびり観光してた。
じゃあ。
I couldn't think of anything else. It was obvious now. I know Rena and I both were completely fooled by a scrapbook of Takano-san's delusion. Rena was so serious about it, so I believed her. If you examined it closely, there were so many inconsistencies. I couldn't believe Rena took a delusion like that so seriously. I knew the reason why, though. She was still in a state of shock after being caught with the corpses that day. She was mentally unstable. And she came across this tall tale and she believed it. Rena's a smart girl. She wouldn't have taken it seriously if she was stable. Plus another thing happened to wake me up from the delusion. The white van I saw yesterday came to the school during the lunch break. 4 men in work uniforms I saw were there too. I said thank you to Mion and followed them. The man who talked to me yesterday knocked on the door of the teacher's office.
毎度おこのぎ造園でございますね。
どうもご苦労様です。今日も暑いですね。
いいえいいえ。先生は今日もますますべっぴんで。
ではすみません。今日もよろしくお願いいたします。
はい、よろしくお願いします。これ、うちの事務屋から渡すように言われましたんで。
見積書と請求書ですね。ありがとうございます。日付は空欄ですね。はい、お預かりします。
はい、それでは取り掛かりますんで。
Man was talking to Chie-sensei with a big smile.
どうしたのかね、前原君。
あ、校長先生、今の男の人は誰ですか？
The principal pointed his finger at the window. When I looked out, I heard the noise of an engine starting. The noise was coming from the engine of a motorized lawnmower. I saw young men in work uniforms taking another lawnmower, some brooms, and a ladder out of the van.
園芸業者さんである。だいぶ垣根や樹木が手入れされてなかったからの。夏前に一度剪定を頼もうと思ったのだよ。
ああ、校長先生。この度はお世話になりまして。
The man noticed the principal, took off his hat and bowed.
うん。よろしく頼み申しますぞ。
なんとか今日中で終わらせますんで、しばらくうるさくしますんが、ご容赦を。
Each worker took one of the tools and walked toward the fence where the grass was growing. The engine of the lawnmower was very loud, and the kids who were playing in the schoolyard looked at it curiously.
こらー、危ないですから皆さん教室へ戻りなさい。
Chie-sensei. She handed an envelope with the documents in it to the principal. It said Okanogi Gardeners in green on the envelope.
では校長先生、申し訳ありませんが、この請求書を後日市役所に行かれるときに持って行ってください。
うん。心得た。
千恵先生、造園屋さんは昨日も来てました？
ええ、昨日の夕方に一度下見に来てもらいました。帰りに近道をしようとして迷ってしまったと言ってましたっけ？
この村は細い道はだいぶ入り組んでおるからの。無理もないわい。
I love how the principal just doesn't have a sprite because no one cares about him. I remember when I first came here, Chie-sensei started talking about when she got lost, and they laughed together. There was never anything suspicious to begin with. I thought they were suspicious yesterday because of what Rena had told me. First, I thought it wasn't unusual to see a white van. Then right after I heard her creepy story, I saw a white van parked on the road and I got scared. The gardeners weren't familiar with the roads of Hinamizawa and they got lost trying to take a shortcut on their way back. That's all. Had it totally twisted around. I believe that fake-sounding story. I believe that the Sonozaki family was working behind the scenes. I fabricated the existence of a group of fanatical believers in my mind. Worse, I doubted Mion. Damn it, I'm such a fool. She's my friend. We took each other's hands that day, saying we were a family made of friends, and that friends were friends no matter what. I said that, but then I doubted my friend. So stupid. Anyway, Rena was the problem. She also needed to wake up from this crazy delusion. I had to hurry and wake her up. Rena seemed like she had no mind to listen to anyone else. She truly believed that the Sonozaki family are the masterminds of a large-scale conspiracy. I remembered the plate number of the white van. I also remembered their faces. Without a doubt, this is one of the vans that have been following me. So far, I've confirmed that 3 or 4 cars have been following me. I could especially recall this white van because it followed me around the longest of all. People who were in the other cars must be the lookouts, and the ones in this van must be tasked with direct contact, like kidnapping or assassination. The lookouts secure the surroundings, and the ones in this van attack the target. It's a common maneuver used in both kidnapping and assassination. The scrapbook said that too. So, I'd better watch out, because if it was them, not the lookouts, came to the school premises. I don't think they'll attack me while I'm in school. They're in the early stage of their covert operation now, hiding their fangs and claws until the last stage of their horrifying scheme. That's why they won't take action in the school where people are watching. It looked like they were talking with Chie-sensei in a very friendly way. I can only hear bits and pieces of their conversation, but it sounded very suspicious. I tried to remember the chatter and the movement of their mouths, and I played my memory of it, like a videotape in my mind.
毎度
あ、どうもご苦労様です。今日も暑いですね。
いいえいいえ。
ではすみません。今日もよろしくお願いいたします。
はい、よろしくお願いします。これ、うちの事務屋から渡すように言われましたんで。
と、ですね。ありがとうございます。わ、空欄ですね。はい、お預かりします。
はい、それでは。りますんで。
It's leaving blanks where bits were X'd out. I used the information I had to guess what was going on. I played the video again and again in my mind. I also paused it and played it in slow motion again to check it many times. And something unbelievably horrifying started to emerge. There's no doubt that they're acquainted with Chie-sensei, but I've never seen them visit the school before. It's hard to believe that Chie-sensei is their contact. There's no doubt that they are the death squad under the direct control of the Sonozaki family. The local accent which proves they were chosen from the Sonozaki Corps. Death Squad was talking with Chie-sensei. They know each other. What's their relationship? Who's Chie-sensei anyway? During the dam conflict, Hinamizawa school was closed and it was merged with the one in Okonomiya. But the Onigafuchi Guardians didn't accept that. They made a part of the forestry service building into a school. But needless to say, the school they made didn't have a teacher. It was only going to be a token form of resistance. But a teacher who had a strong passion for education felt sorry for the children and came to work there. That was Rumiko Chie-sensei. It's obviously strange. Teachers are government employees and they normally belong to their prefectures. As long as they lie low and don't cause trouble, they don't get fired and they don't get demoted. Then they can work until official retirement age and they're guaranteed to get a fixed retirement fund. She was one of those government employees, but she defied the Board of Education and came to work for Hinamizawa. No, she's not. She is not okay. She's already been diagnosed with PTSD and schizophrenia, on top of other things, and she currently believes that. Oh, and then she murdered 2 people. So she's the uncle killer this time. Also, I just realized it's they changed like the outside too. So now the outside looks wonderful in red. But now she's convinced that someone gave her these scrapbooks, which basically outline a conspiracy in the village, and then that person was burned to death. Now she's convinced that the people are trying to come and get what's in these scrapbooks with this conspiracy. The conspiracy generally states that the local religion is trying to create a parasite that controls people. Is the gist of it. Villagers admire her as a teacher of passion. I'd heard that Oreo Somzaki herself successfully negotiated with the Board of Education and suspended Chie-sensei for defying their orders. So the game does this thing where it'll invert the graphics because a character is going through something where they feel like there is a threat going on. So the current main character, Rena, perceives her teacher as a potential threat right now. And she's thinking through this in her mind, and that's why it has this weird inverted color scheme. It was easy to get an answer from this by connecting the dots. Chie-sensei was recruited by Oreo Sonozaki as a teacher to work at the school the Onikafuchi Guardians had created. In other words, she was already working for Oreo before she came here. As for the principal, he was the principal of the school in Hinamizawa from the beginning. A respectable person of this region has been closely associated with the three families for a long time. So that means the school has been under control of the Sonozaki family all along. That's why Chie-sensei is acquainted with the death squad. It all makes sense now. Chie-sensei confirmed that I came to school today, made a phone call, and called them here. I don't know why she called them here. She called them here just to monitor me. They'd wait near the gate until class was over. But they came onto the school premises. Why? Stop pretending to be a fool, Rena Ryugu. Think nothing will happen if you pretend not to notice it? Think hard and calm down, Rena Ryugu. What will they try to do to me today in school? In school? Hello, Oreo. And your... I don't have a tennis ball, but there's a ball for you. How are they going to do anything with my classmates and friends around me? Easy. Chie-sensei will tell me to come to the teacher's office during the last class of the day. About my clubmates? It's easy too. Chie-sensei can easily make them go home early using her authority as a teacher. She can make up any reason she wants. Maybe the classroom is going to have a carpentry work done today and so they can't stay in school?
は今日
ではすみません。今日もよろしくお願いいたします。
See, there's no doubt. They clearly said they're ready to do it today. What
は
else?
い、よろしくお願いします。これうちの事務屋から渡すように言われましたんで。
とですね。ありがとうございます。は空欄ですね。問題ありません。はい、お預かりします。
I see. Gave Chie-sensei an envelope with some documents in it. That blank is an eerie phrase. Is my name supposed to be in the blank? Why is it left blank? What does that mean? I told you, Rena Ryugu. Still think that nothing will happen if you pretend not to notice it? Stop that. So what it must mean, that it's an order from higher up. It says to make Rena Ryugu become blank. I took a peek from the shadows and saw the principal taking documents out from the envelope. Started reading them. He looked stern. He looked very serious. Wished I could take a peek at the documents, but I was too far away. I kept looking at him just to see if he'd react at all, and then the envelope caught my eye. The envelope said, Okanogi Gardeners, and had some numbers that looked like a phone number. Fortunately, I have good eyesight. I memorized the number. If they're a death squad, the gardening company must be a camouflage occupation. It probably doesn't even exist. I wanted to find out. I looked for a phone. There's only one phone. It's in the teacher's office. Fortunately, the teachers were chatting in the hallway looking at the gardeners, so it was now or never. I made sure nobody was watching me go into the teacher's office. I rushed in and grabbed the phone on the principal's desk. Went over the phone over my head and dialed it up. I'm glad they have a touch-tone phone. It would have been difficult if it was a rotary dial. Except, if you look at the phone here in the office, that clearly looks like a rotary dial. So I see the holes for it. Somebody answered. I only have to ask, is this the Okanogi Gardeners? Wait for the answer before hanging up. It should be easy. Connected.
お客様がおかけになった電話番号は
I felt a cold chill run through my body from the bottom of my feet. Wait, don't make a quick judgment. Might have remembered the number wrong. No, I know I remembered it right. It was an easy number to remember. It's impossible to remember it wrong. And did I dial it wrong? Put the phone down and started over. This time I dialed the number more slowly. The teachers might be coming back at any time. In that situation, it was risky to do anything slowly. But I needed to make absolutely sure.
お客様がおかけになった電話番号は
It's the same. There's no doubt. The company, Okanogi Gardeners, doesn't exist. It's just a camouflage operation for the Sonozaki family's death
番
squad.
号をお確かめの上もう一度ダイヤルしてください。お客様がおかけになった電話番号は
I was too stunned to put the receiver down. The announcement kept running over and over again, and the voice was cold and creepy. I hung up the phone and rushed out of the teacher's office. I ran to the bathroom and held my head in an attempt to cool down. Calm down, Rena. Calm down, Rena. Stay cool, Rena. I wasn't safe here anymore. If I stayed here, I might be erased, even in the open. It erased me? Why? They aren't certain that I have the scrapbooks. I told Keiichi-kun where I hid the scrapbooks. Yesterday I told him I hid them in my hideout in the garbage dump. Was Keiichi-kun in cahoots with the Sonozaki family? I felt as if my head was a pot that was cooking some dubious stew. There was only soup in my brain. I cut up clues, information, and facts just like I'd cut vegetables and threw them into the pot. Some of them were floating on the surface, and others were on the bottoms of the pot. They were being cooked in a boiling soup. Now it can't be. Keiichi-kun is on my side. He's the only one who's on my side. He held out his hand to me at the trash piles. There was no lie in that hand. He grabbed my wrist. I felt nothing but his strong and pure heart. He promised me he'd be on my side. I shouldn't doubt Keiichi-kun. He's the only one I should trust. He's the only one who's on my side right now.
ごめんケイチ君。危うく君を疑いそうになった。本当にごめんね。本当にごめんね。
Said it out loud on purpose, full of regret that I doubted Keiichi-kun, the only one who's on my side. Now that I think about it, whether I have the scrapbooks or not might not matter to them. Erase anyone who's suspicious. That's the safest way. Does that mean they're in a hurry? The day of Oyashiro-sama's revival might be just around the corner, and that's why they're trying to get rid of any small fish bones that are stuck in the throat, by any means, before it's too late. You don't need her anymore. Just erase her if you're worried so much. I could easily picture Orio Sonozaki saying that. Picture? No, she did say that. That's why they were here today. What should I do? Should I wait until school is over? I was like a fish in a pond. No matter how many times I escaped from the net, I was in the pond. And they own the pond. I didn't stand a chance. Then what should I do now? Couldn't keep escaping from the net. I should get out of the pond. I didn't know how to fight them. I didn't know who was on my side. I was about to give in to despair. But now I'd have to think about how to survive this, so at least I'd have time to think about how to fight against them. I have to get out of this pond. I was about to leave the classroom. One of my classmates came in. I pretended to be sick and talked to the girl while leaning on the
ご
wall.
めんね。私、ちょっとどうしても具合が悪くて。早退するからって先生に伝えておいてくれないかな。
I shouldn't let Chie-sensei know that I'm leaving school early if I'm trying to run away from them. If I didn't, they might think I ran away without cause. It might lead them to chase after me without mercy. If that happens, I don't stand a chance. They were planning to capture me after school is over, but I happened to feel sick and left school early. If they took it that way, they wouldn't think that I noticed the noose tightening around me. I was about to go back to the classroom and get my bag, but I changed my mind and turned around. I didn't need my bag anymore. I realized nobody was watching me, so I stopped pretending to be sick and started running.
Chie 先生、ここがおかしいですぞ。
おかしい？どうかなさいましたか？
見積書と請求書の日付が空欄になっておりますぞ。ここは今日の日付ではないのですかな？
ああ、そこはお役所の都合らしいんです。見積書の日付と請求書の日付が同じだと、なんだか都合が悪いそうで、庶務係さんから空欄にするようよく念を押されています。
あとそれから請求書に書いてある電話番号と封筒に書いてある電話番号が違っていますぞ。どちらが正しいのですかな？
あらやだ、本当ですね。社長さん。
はい、どうしましたね？
請求書に書いてある電話番号と封筒の電話番号が違ってますけど、どちらが正しいのですか？
請求書の方の電話番号が正しいんで大丈夫ですね。先代の事務所の時の封筒がまだだいぶ余ってたもんなんで、それにすんませんね。バイトの子に全部新しい番号のハンコを押しとくように言ったんだけどな。すんまへん。消しておいてもらえますかね。
Well, that explains the phone number. We got lunch takeout list 3. The danger of a culture-bound syndrome lies in the fact that it can easily trigger delusional misidentification syndrome. That is to say, in the current case, every time the patient sees something trivial, she tries to interpret it as a curse. It's believed that, as a result of the accumulation of these events in an understandable form, a delusional system is created, ultimately leading to paranoia. Furthermore, the patient is also exhibiting slight signs of a personality disorder. Of course, at a very mild level, and it's not causing any hindrance whatsoever to the patient's daily life. It's common for even healthy individuals to have a primary delusions in their daily lives, but they usually ignore it automatically without recognition since those delusions are nonsensical. However, there are cases where these delusions accumulate despite being incomprehensible. It largely depends on the particular characteristics of the individual. It's believed that the patient shows relatively strong characteristics in this area. I believe you're very much aware that primary delusions are categorized in 3 different kinds. Delusional mood is the feeling of an impending crisis without basis. Delusional intuition is the feeling of a sense of duty or goal without basis. Delusional perception is the feeling of a baseless cause against a baseless target. In the patient's case, it's believed that these incomprehensible delusions accumulated acted out simultaneously with the culture-bound syndrome, which triggered a delusional misidentification syndrome, and ultimately caused the incomprehensible delusions to become understandable by interpreting them as a curse. The comprehensible delusional system induces understandable secondary delusions, further strengthening the patient's delusional system with the passage of time. The delusional parasitosis mentioned earlier can be considered a secondary delusion. A common factor of all cases of paranoia is that even after an outbreak, they still appear perfectly normal with no change in their personalities. The patients are unaware of their own ailments, and due to their personal interpretations of their delusional system. There are many cases where patients arm themselves logically, making it difficult for a third party to point out that they're having a delusion. Furthermore, although it may depend on the tendency of the delusions, there are also cases where a persecutory delusion turns into a pursuit delusion, or conspiracy delusion, resulting in the patient creating an imaginary enemy and taking up antisocial behavior. For example, there are cases where believers of a religious cult were deeply influenced by the cult's founders' paranoid visions, which shifted the group into a conspiracy delusion that made them conduct antisocial behavior in the name of self-defense. Although no such cases have been reported in Japan yet, it could very well happen in the near future. Fortunately, the patient hasn't reached that serious condition as of now. Proper treatment, she should be able to make a full recovery. Please make sure her father also understands that this is not an unusual case. It's something caused by the accumulation of a number of innocent factors that anyone could have. The patient can be treated only by deepening her bond with her father. As long as she has that bond, she can certainly be treated. For the reasons above, if the patient is to return to her home village, I strongly recommend that the patient continue to receive guidance from specialized medical institutions. Please excuse me for writing such a long letter. Thank you for reading this until the very end. Alright, so that was the end of all the medical letters and the lunch order that was on the back of the first page. So we'll see where we start off, and then I think we'll call it. So we're still Rena. We're still the same day. We're now just trying to escape from school. They were mowing the grass near the fence, which is probably a cover to monitor the surroundings. Just in case, I tried to escape from the school. They must have been thinking that would only happen after school was over. Seemed to have no idea that I'd already noticed their plan and was trying to run away right now at that very moment. I couldn't use the front gate since they'd find me easily. I moved behind the school building, made sure nobody was around the curry garden, ran through it and dashed into the forest. I walked through the dense undergrowth, stepping on deadwood and climbing over fallen trees. That is how it appears that she is just crazy right now. After walking through the forest for a while, I came to a small road. I know many back roads in this village because of our club activities, and that knowledge has finally come in handy. So what should I do now? I'm sure the girl has already passed my message to Chie-sensei. Those men must be going crazy by now, knowing that I ran away. Everybody in the class looked at each other and shook their heads. Chie-sensei looked a bit upset that Rena left school early without telling her in person.
でもレナさん、最近はいつも体調悪そうでございましたものね。
レナ、カバンなんかも置きっぱなしだし、どうしちゃったんだろう。
なんだか嫌な予感がするぜ。
え？
I think I know what's going on. Not sure, but I have a very bad feeling about this. She must have taken another ridiculous story seriously or something. I hope she won't do anything crazy. I hurried home. My father might be at his new job. Or he might have gone shopping. This is a creepy song in the background. He wasn't around when I got there. Now that they're on the move, I'm no longer safe in my house. They're very dangerous people. They're trained to be capable of attacking the Ministry of Construction. They actually pulled off the kidnapping of the grandson of the minister. Locked doors and windows won't mean anything to them. In fact, I feel like I was hiding in a box, which they could just open to get at me. I can no longer stay at my home. It's very sad and very frustrating. I killed Rena and Teppy, and finally regained a peaceful life with my father. So how could this happen to me? I remembered what Keiichikun told me before. He expressed my feelings better than anything.
Takano-san, とんでもない置き土産を。
Why did she give me those terrifying scrapbooks? Why did she tell me the secret of that unthinkable conspiracy? She got me into this. I didn't do anything. It's all Mio-san's fault. But who's so interested in her stories? I was. Who let her continue talking? I did. I did that out of curiosity. Who let the memories of Ibaraki return and told Mio-san about them? I did. I depended on Mio-san, hoping that she would somehow save me from the memories I'd been trying to forget. I shouldn't have remembered anything about that bizarre incident. If I hadn't, I wouldn't have gotten involved in that unthinkable conspiracy, and I could have just played around with my friends today. Even if I didn't know about the conspiracy, I'd still be continuing behind the scenes. I would have been one member of the mob running in a panic, not knowing what's going on the day of Oyashiro-sama's revival. I'd have just been swallowed up in their conspiracy anyway. Would I be happier if I faced the day without knowing anything? Would I be happier if I struggled knowing about it but ended up being swallowed up by it? I'm not going to end up the same way no matter what I choose to do. I'll fight. I'll choose to fight. So that's how I seized my happiness before. When Rena invaded my home, seducing my father. I felt like it was the end of the world. I lived on the verge of despair every day. I thought that was the worst misfortune that could befall anyone. The way things are going, it wasn't really that bad at all. I only had 2 enemies, Rena Mamiya and Tepi Hojo. I knew my enemies, and I knew how many they were. I lured them out one by one and attacked them in the dark. It was a very easy problem to solve. But what about this one? I don't know who my enemies are. I don't know how many or how strong they are. Even the people I once trusted might be my enemies. I can't possibly be sure. It's totally different from the previous problem. It might be the end of the world. This time, it really was the worst thing that could possibly happen. But is that really the case? With Rena, I felt like it was the end of the world, but I no longer think that it was that bad. This might turn out to be an easy problem to solve in the end, and I might be able to laugh about it someday. I know that day will come. I know it for sure. So I shouldn't think that this is the end of the world. Let's fight. I can fight. I can still struggle. I'd eat grass and drink mud if I needed to. I'm going to bet on the 1% chance, even though it's unbelievably small. Mio-san didn't leave me the scrapbooks. I wouldn't even have been able to sit at the table to bet. I was lucky that I received the scrapbooks because it gave me the chance to choose my future. If I don't fight, they'll spread the terrible parasite and this village will face a great disaster. According to the legend, when the demons first come out of the swamp, people became demons right after being infected. And it happened while they were inside the village. These days, symptoms only appear when infected people leave the village. It only applies to the later weak parasite. The original parasite can reenact the curse of Oyashiro-sama even when the infected are in the village. The legend of Oyashiro-sama will be reborn. Humans and demons will start killing each other. Oyashiro-sama will come down to pacify the disaster. That's what they want. They want people to prostrate themselves before the miracle. Only the people who worship Oyashiro-sama will be saved. I see. I know their true intention now. They're going to reenact the legend of Oyashiro-sama. After all, the villagers always say that Rika-chan is his reincarnation. The stage is all set. And use the parasite as the curse. So how are they going to make it look like Oyashiro-sama came down to pacify everyone? I get it. They must have some kind of medicine, a specific cure for the parasite. When they recreated the stronger form of the parasite, they found a cure for it at the same time. They're going to use this cure to save only the people who believe in Oyashiro-sama, and as a result, this village will only have those fervent believers. And make themselves the absolute rulers of Hinamizawa. Wait, I still might be underestimating them. Are they going to carry out that horrifying act of bioterrorism only in Hinamizawa? History proves that when their goal is to control people, people desire to spread their religion across a wide area. I'm sure that they conducted research not only to bring back the primitive form of the parasite, but also to overcome its weakness, namely that it only thrives in Hinamizawa. According to Mio-san's research, the parasite doesn't like hosts to be far from the region. Its weakness is distance. They could extend the distance. They could extend the area where it can live. Wonder how far along their research is. By now, the parasite might be able to live not only in Hinamizawa, but in Okonomiya as well. Or maybe even in the city. Maybe the whole prefecture? Might be able to cover nearby prefectures as well. This is too serious to call it a conspiracy. It's horrifying enough, and scale large enough to call it a revolution. The day of revival is probably not far off. I can tell by how they killed Mio-san and by the extent of the pressure they're putting on me. They're trying to get rid of the small fish bone stuck in their throats by any means. That day is coming even closer. I'm the only one who can stand up against their revolution. I can't trust anybody. I think I can trust Keiichi-kun, but no one else. Mi-chan is out of the question. I can't trust Rika-chan either. Sadako-chan and Rika-chan stick together like super glue, so I can't trust Sadako-chan either. I can't trust any adults. I can't trust anybody. No one is on my side. I have to stand up against them alone. The clock is ticking towards that day, and the ticking noise made me frustrated. How should I fight against them? What should I do? I needed time to think. I needed a place, a safe area where I could concentrate on thinking. Fortunately, I had such an area already. My hideout at the garbage dump. Nobody ever goes there, so it's safe. Even if they found out about that place, I'm familiar with its surroundings. I know escape routes and places where I can hide. It has a big shortcoming as a hiding place. It's not hard to imagine what it is. I don't have any stock of food there. That's why I came home. I opened one of my father's drawers and took out his cash box. The contents haven't changed since the last time I looked inside. For many you knew 10,000 yen bills in the cash box. I took them all. I couldn't tell how many bills there actually were, but it looked to be about 80 of them. It should be plenty. If I evaded them long enough to use all this money, that would mean I did it pretty well. Plus, I might use it to buy someone off. Never have too much money, especially in a situation like this. I didn't take the bank book. If they were waiting in ambush at the bank, I'd be done for. Too risky to withdraw money at the bank. I grabbed my backpack. I took the key from my bicycle. Put everything I think would be convenient to have into the backpack. I didn't care if it got heavy. I'd choose what was necessary to carry around later at my hideout. If it ended up being something I didn't need, I could leave it there. I looked at the clock. It had been 30 minutes since I came home. I stayed here too long. I rushed out of the house. I went to a small convenience store and bought as much sweetbread and canned food as I could fit in my backpack. An old lady was at the register, probably suffering from dementia. She showed no interest in the extraordinary amount of food I was buying. But as soon as the manager of the store checked the sales that night, he'd find out. The idea didn't bother me, because I could no longer walk around the village in daylight anyway. My backpack was full, and the cans hurt my back as I walked. That didn't bother me either. I got to my hideout still carrying the heavy backpack. I organized the stuff I bought. It's very heavy to carry, but now I had sufficient food. The abandoned construction office still had running water, so I could get some from there. I'd wanted to get some vegetables, but in a situation like this, I could hardly complain. After I organized things, I took out the scrapbooks I hid here, put my brain into top gear, flipping through the pages. So now what? Now what seems like the time to end stream on.